but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. As a volunteer, you deliver a hot, nutritious meal and a friendly hello to someone just like your mother, grandfather, or next door neighbor. These seniors are inspiring people with incredible stories to share, and they love to see you. The smiles you get back are priceless. Delivering with Meals on Wheels is easy, and you don't have to drive like me for it to be quick. You can volunteer your lunch break once a week or just once a month. With 1 in 6 seniors facing hunger and many more living in isolation, your lunch break can make a real difference. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
So you see, son, good manners are very, very important. Someday, many years from now, when you're a grown-up, you'll be a man. And when you are, you should be a gentleman. Do you want me to go through it one more time?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, and excuse me. Sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If a door's shut, then knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't speak with your mouth full, don't reach across people's plates, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. While we're at it, don't stare, don't use foul language, don't call people names, but do remember people's names. Always share your toys, play nice, and cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give up your seat to anyone who has trouble standing bottom line. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
And stop picking your nose.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I'm having a stroke.
Are you going to shake my hand or what?
I'm having a stroke.
Wow, you're not even moving your arm.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you okay?
I'm having a stroke.
Your face looks weird too.
I'm having a stroke.
Are you having a seizure or something?
I'm having a stroke.
When someone is having a stroke, they may not be able to say it with words, but their body language will tell you loud and clear.
I'm having a stroke.
You just need to know the sudden signs. Look for FAST, F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. Or S, speech difficulty. Then T, time. Time to call 911 immediately, because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. Know the sudden signs. Face, arm, speech, time. Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
Or if that resume was from someone who
worked 12-hour shifts at the recycling company with my dad, who's 72. That taught me a work ethic that I carry with me every day.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have gotten in the way of my goals. But I learned to push through, and that's what I bring to work every day.
So maybe it's time we look beyond the resume and look to Grads of Life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
A lot to get into for a new show of the Sports Loudmouth. The NCAA and the Power 5 schools agree to a deal that allows players to get paid. I can't wait for this. Draymond Green says that the NBA is not set up to make players healthy or wealthy, whatever you want to say with that. And Jason and Travis Kelce commented about Tom Brady's deflategate and his broadcasting career, and much, much more on a new show of the Sports Loudmouth. Doc Rivers is going to have Damian Lillard run very fast out of town. Does he help them win? You're under 500. Aaron Judge helps the Yankees win. You're paying the player $300 million. You better be sure that that guy's going to help you get over the hump. For some reason, this guy is completely lost on calling plays. They need a therapist. Jackson cried to the referee. No, he didn't. We are back for a new show of the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can call us tonight at 631-672-3108 is the number to call. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Wednesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it won't be Wednesdays and Thursdays. It will be Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. We got to get used to that. It's something new that we're going to be doing for all the fans, spreading out our content for all the fans to check us out throughout the week. All you have to do to go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. A lot to get into tonight, but before we do that, Speedy, what is up?
Yeah, I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend. I want to give a salute to service as well to all that served in all the armed forces, even the first responders as well. Everybody that's fought for our freedoms. I salute all of you and your families as well.
Salute, Speedy.
And speaking of family, I also give condolences to Nithin. He lost his grandfather yesterday, unfortunately, passed away. So Nithin, my heart goes out to you and your family as well.
Absolutely. Nithin's been a friend of the show, great person, good personality, and obviously great analyst. And he goes out there and he works with so many people in the sports world. He works with the Yankees. He does a lot with the farm systems, and he does a lot right now with autograph signings all over New Jersey, the tri-state area. He's just a good person, a good seed, and very well brought up. And I just when I heard his father passed away yesterday, I was very upset. It was a day of just celebrating our country and our flag and all the people that fight for our country and save so many people's lives. And the fact that some people lose their lives for protecting us, it's a very important day. Veterans Day and Memorial Day are 2 days really for the soldiers and the people that fight for us and keep us safe. So I want to give a shout out to all the people that fight for us throughout the rankings of the Army, the Marine Corps, obviously the Air Force, and every single people that fight for us throughout the world. Thank you very much, and we salute you, and we really appreciate everything that you guys do for us. So thank you. It's crazy. All weekend, I don't understand this weather. I have no idea what is Long Island weather. One day it's hot as hell. It's like 85 degrees. I'm sweating. I can't even go outside. And by the way, my landlord didn't even put the air conditioning in my windows yet. So I have the windows open. I want to air out the place, especially the studio. It's horrible. And I hate when the air conditioning's in the studio window because it's too loud. and these mics are condensing mics, so you can hear everything. So I hate it. So we keep it in the other room, and it to me, it just gets too hot. I don't like this weather. And then it rained. Did anybody see the rain yesterday? It came down yesterday. Barbecue. I was helping my friend barbecue, and that's the best part of, celebrating Memorial Day or 4th of July is hanging out with your friends, hanging out with your family, and having a barbecue. Well, it wasn't such a great barbecue because I got soaked, and I was sitting. He got a new canopy, and we're all sitting behind the canopy, and you couldn't even hear yourself think. It was coming down too loud. So, I mean, you're in Connecticut. You were hanging out with your family.
There was only a little bit of rain. It wasn't a storm like that.
It was horrible. Yeah. It was absolutely horrible. But I hope everybody enjoyed the Memorial Day, hanging out with their friends. I did on Sunday, but I was working all weekend. I love to work. I love being in the public eye, entertainment, and interviewing people. So I was very excited to just go out there, out and about, and do what I do best, and that's just be crazy. But it's going to be great tonight, as always, as we have a very special guest at 7:30. We'll be talking to former Pistons and Clippers shooting guard Alex Acker. So he will be joining us. I'm sorry, Alex Acker. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to correct myself there. He did play for the Pistons. That's when I remembered him playing, was with the Pistons. At 8:30, we'll be talking to co-founder of All 22 Premium Fantasy Football, Chris Lombardi. He's been on a show before. He's very, very good. If you're a fantasy football fan, I'm going to tell you this right now. He's one of the best at it, and he wins so many times for so many different games with ESPN and Yahoo throughout the year. He plays like in 10 or 11 fantasy leagues, and he's fantastic. So if you're a fantasy football guy, you must listen to this interview. He's fantastic. We're definitely going to get into the NCAA Power 5 school agreement to give the deals for these players and getting paid. That's a big story right now. It's something that I've been really preaching. That was something I was preaching about last week. So definitely going to get into that. Draymond Green says that the NBA is not set up to make players wealthy. That's a bunch of crap, but we will get into that. Jason and Travis Kelce commented about Tom Brady's deflategate and his broadcasting career. So we will get into that. That's something interesting to get into. Brandon Aiyuk says he wants to be paid the same or more as what St. Brown got paid, $28 million per year. I think St. Brown's a little bit better of a player, so we will get into that. Ronald Acuna suffers a torn ACL in his left leg. That's his other leg. He's out for the season. What does that spell for him? So we will get into that. Angel Hernandez, I know everybody loves him, announces his retirement. And Rob Manfred says robot umpires will be pushed back until at least 2026. You know why? Because that's when he's retiring, ladies and gentlemen. NBA and NHL playoff updates. Celtics sweep the Pacers. Mavericks up 3-0. And the Rangers and the Stars both are up 2-1. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun show. So, it's crazy. And this is the story I really wanted to get into, is the NCAA and the Power 5 conference, which the agreement and the deal would make the school have the opportunity to pay players, which is something so very important. And college sports in history, I've been preaching this for years, that college teams should be paying the players, especially if you're, I believe, a 5-star recruit. If you're expected to be a star quarterback, or if you're expected to be a star defensive lineman or a linebacker, or even a defensive back, which we've seen like Sauce Gardner over there in Cincinnati, they should get paid. Now, what's interesting about this story is what they're offering and where the sources are coming from the schools, that $20 million to dispute, that $20 million will be disputed, distributed among athletes within all sports. And to me, I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough, because if you're a Power 5 team, or you're in one of those schools that they have a good football program, but they don't have a good baseball program, and they don't have a good hockey program, or maybe they have a school that has all good programs, like Boston University. They have a good football program. They have a good basketball program. Not a great one, but a good basketball program. And they have a great hockey program. So how do you distribute $20 million? That's my question. How does this work? And that is where they have to be in sync with, obviously, the NCAA and with all these athletic organizations, especially with hockey, basketball, football, and baseball. $2.7 billion in damages over the last 10 years, student athletes that were affected by federal antitrust issues. And that's something that the NCAA has looked into and are wondering why this has been going on for all these years and what has really, where was this going throughout the league and throughout the NCAA? And $2.7 billion, there's about 14 players that are going to get paid a lot of money. Now, obviously, all student athletes in 2016 are allowed to some type of benefits because of the NCAA settlement of the antitrust case. And here's the thing. There's a lot of money being distributed over the years. There's a lot of colleges and there's a lot of players. And for years, I believe institutions were paying these kids under the table. And it was illegal. And now, with the NCAA agreeing or going to agree to obviously give them an opportunity to make some money and have millions and millions of dollars before they even step on a football field, before they step on a baseball field, before they step on a hockey rink, or even a track and field, track. To me, there has to be something. And I don't think like I said, going back to the $20 million, I don't think that's enough because there are a ton of schools that have great programs. And again, you're going to have to wiggle certain money to each program. Now, if, like I said, if it's a Power 5 school, like Alabama, look at the softball team, the women's softball team. They have a great football team. They got a great basketball team. I don't know much about hockey over there in Alabama, but there's 3 schools right there. There's 3 programs right now that are bringing in great recruits. And how are you going to divide that out to all those players? Now, you have the football program. The football program draws the most money. So I guess you distribute most of that $20 million into the football program. That would make sense. But again, Nick Saban's not there anymore. Where do they go with that? That's something that has to be looked at. And that's where college, football and college baseball and college basketball, there has to be something connected to it where it makes sense. I don't know how they're going to figure this out. And again, $20 million, is that really enough? Because there are football players, like we were talking about Rashada, who was offered $14 million by himself, $14 million, and they promised his father $1 million. That's $15 million. That's practically, I would say, 85% of the money they're talking about at $20 million. What it could do and what could this cause? And I'm going to explain what can this cause. Even though they agree to $20 million, there's still going to be money thrown under the table. There's still illegal stuff that's going to happen in college football. And again, I don't know how it makes sense that this is going to work. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, this will work and that will work. It doesn't always work that way. Money, these players are trying to make. These kids are coming from poor families. And it doesn't matter. Some of these softball girl players they come from very wealthy families and obviously they don't need the money. But if you can make that kind of money and you're going to make $1 million to play a softball game, of course they're going to take that kind of money. But again, it would bother me if there's some kind of negotiation to this. I don't know how this negotiation worked. And if these schools are really going to agree to this, because the sources say that they are, how does this work in the long haul? Does it make sense? If you're a college basketball fan or you're a college football fan, how does this work? If you believe like Duke is known for their basketball, but they have a pretty good football program. Now, they have a kid named Cooper Flagg that's going over there. He is going to be a big-time athlete over there with the Blue Devils. Now, give or take, the Duke Blue Devils head coach left college. They left their football team, went to another team, and that's why a lot of the players decided to go into the portal. Now, how does this work? Now, if this player was offered this money when he decided to pick Duke, and he got that money, or he gets it divided out by the school for a certain amount of time, certain amount of years until he becomes an NFL player or until he finishes his degree. How does that work if he goes into the portal? How does that make sense? If he leaves the school after the first year and they already offered him, I don't know, $5 million to come and play for the school and play for the program, and he decides, you know what, this team sucks, the coach leaves, well, does he get that money? Does he get that offer if he signs the contract? How does that work? That's the thing. And they're saying $20 million a year, right? That's what they're saying?
For all student athletes, which include a lot of sports.
So how does this really work? I don't understand it. And that's the thing. What college sports is trying to do is they're trying to allow this to happen. So even if there's money being shoved under the table, which it probably is still going to be, it's going to be legal in some kind of way, because you know, a lot of these schools, they'll find ways to use paperwork or a paper trail that makes sense for those schools to cheat and find a way to work it out where these players are still getting their money. They could still prove on a piece of paper that they have agreed to it and the schools agree to it, and that they're not causing fraud. They're not causing something that's going to affect the NCAA rules when they agree to this.
Right. And you also judge not only the amount of athletes that are being paid, but the amount of sports that could exist in every Power 5 school. They're Power 5 schools for a reason. Like, they have almost every sport there imaginable, both men and women's. They could have it with lacrosse, volleyball. They could have it with, like you were saying, softball. Like it's not just the football. The football is going to be the biggest, obviously, money worth, but every program could have
the basketball team.
The basketball too, yeah, depending on the school. Now, obviously, each school is different. Like you said, like there's going to be these hockey powerhouses that might not be as good as, say, basketball, so maybe they'll deviate the money that way. There's also schools that have these younger athletes that are in the Olympics. Like, for example, like Stanford brought in Katie Ledecky. Katie Ledecky was an Olympian in 2016. Then she went to swim for Stanford in 2017. Like, how much would they have to pay that kind of a player that's already like an elite in their sport in the Olympic level? Like, I think there's a couple of gymnasts in those type of circumstances as well. Those are all the factors that go into it. That's why I agree with you. There's going to be still some illegal transactions in addition to these new legalized transactions just based on this deal.
And Jeff keeps saying the boosters are paying. Fine, the boosters are paying them. All right, they're paying them. But who is giving them that money under the table? The school is.
Sure.
So maybe the boosters are giving them the money to give to the players. I've seen it. How many times have you seen Blue Chips? I watched that movie 1 million times with Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal. I saw that movie many, many times. And they've been doing this for years. And yes, there are boosters, very rich boosters that are doing it. If the school and the coach is offering them that money and they go to the boosters, the school is involved with it.
It's ironic you said Penny Hardaway, too. He was caught with that IL violation.
I'm just saying that's the facts. You can say whatever you want. The boosters are paying them. The school is giving them the money. They're there when the offer is there. You're going to tell me the coaches don't know about that money?
Sure.
You're going to tell me that the executives or whatever what do they call the program directors, the athletic directors are not involved with that? They know all about it. They know all about it. Who cares if the boosters are giving them the money? It's still coming through. It's still going through the school and the program. The NCAA. It's still going under the table. Who cares if the boosters are paying them?
Yeah, the athletic directors and a lot of these scandals we've seen end up being the most corrupt of all, covering stuff up. Like we saw it with the Michigan State scandal with the gymnastics team. We saw it with the Penn State thing with Paterno and the cover up with the Sandusky thing. Like, these athletic directors don't want any of this kind of thing to get out. And with money in this kind of case, we were talking about with Rashada last week. Like, if you end up betraying a player like that and not going through with a contract, it might get hard. It might get legalized harder now because it's now legal. Like, if you don't come through with an NIL payment now that it's legal, like, what kind of repercussions that school could have is another different story. Like you said, regardless of coach, regardless of the transfer portal, because I think with the transfer portal, everything's going to be different. Like, when we were talking with Rashada last week, Miami offered 9, Florida offered 14. We don't know what Arizona State offered him when he transferred. They didn't reveal that. Maybe they didn't give him anything. I don't know, but it could be different. Like saying, all right, you want to come to my school, I'll give you this amount of money. And now he's probably going to go to Georgia, which is probably giving him some of his own money from the transfer portal.
And again, all these teams, all these programs, they're all going to try to find a way where this is going to work in their favor. That's what they're going to do, because that's college sports. That's professional sports too. I do believe this. Tom Brady for years took less money to stay with the Patriots, to build the team and build a championship organization. He wanted the best players, or the players that fit their style of game to be brought to the team in free agency. So what did he do? He took less money. You're going to tell me that Robert Kraft wasn't paying him under the table the rest of the money that he should have been making? Of course he did. Of course he did. So again, that's sports. These are rich billionaire owners. These schools, these programs are they're making multi-billions of dollars with these college deals, with the television deals that they're getting, with the money that they're making through ticket sales. I heard, this is through the grapevine, that, the Florida Gators, even though you go to the school, you're still paying like $150 for the tickets. If you're not going to the school, you're paying double that amount of money. So there's 80, I don't know how many people fit in these college stadiums. Let's say 50,000 people fit in these college stadiums. How much are they making every single year if they're packing out these college stadiums? Power 5 schools. How about Oklahoma? They sell out every single game. Right. You're going to tell me that school is not bringing in millions and millions of dollars off of, sales like that, ticket sales and all that other stuff? I don't know about. I've never been to a college football game like when it came to I'm a Florida State Seminoles fan. I've never been to a Florida State game. Never been to a live game. So I don't know how it works when it comes. Is it like a professional game? Do they have food like they do with a Mets game or a Yankee? I don't know. I don't go to college games like that. What I do know is that there's a lot of money being distributed, and these colleges are making money off these players' names. Now, all of a sudden, the players can make money off their own names, and that's good for college basketball and football because these players never had the chance to do that. And now, with this money, now that the sources that the schools are going to allow each of the schools in the programs to pay $20 million out every single year to the athletes, this is the problem. I just don't understand how this is going to work. There has to be something. Now, you say Power 5. Now, so it's only going to work with Power 5 schools?
Yeah,
but what about the other schools?
Right, the other schools are not into that particular deal right now. It's just the Power 5 schools. So that'll be more incentive for a lot of those teams to transfer. You were talking about teams just transferring in this year. Like BYU just became a Big 12 team this year. UCF just became a Big 12 team this year. That'll be more incentive to maybe do that little extra bit in order to do that kind of thing. And that's what's going to be interesting about the way this process works. Because you're right, every school is going to be different. And I think because of that, these schools that maybe are a powerhouse for another way might still say, all right, we're going to go transition into the Big 12 or the ACC or something like that.
That's why I'm a little thrown off with this, because even though they are agreeing to this, how is this going to work? And I think they're going to have to figure that out after the first year, maybe have to add some money to it. I don't know how this is going to work. $20 million for a school like Alabama or Duke or USC or some of these Power 5 schools that have great programs down the line and great track and field runners and great golfers that play golf for their schools. So are you going to pay those golfers? If you have a top-end golfer, you're going to give them $5 million. Right. So $15 million is sitting there to put into your football program, your basketball program, even though it's a bigger program than that particular golf player or tennis player that you have in your school. So it doesn't make sense. I think they need to look more into this before they agree to this deal, but it looks like it's going to go through this. Is it going to happen this year?
I think it's that fall of 2025 is when the first.
So that would be next year.
So that'll be the first ripple effect of it. By the way, Jeff, you have 3 minutes. We have a guest very soon.
Okay. I want to help you with this to just make it easy for you. Every school is going to decide what they pay each athlete. Okay. So now schools can pay athletes. So everything that you were saying before about schools paying athletes is incorrect. This is how you should be looking at it. The school can now pay people. That's like an NBA salary cap. Okay. Right. Like just NBA, like the league can now pay you. NIL, instead of saying NIL and just thinking it's this mysterious thing, just look at it like commercials. Okay, like commercials. That's what it is. You can use your name, image, and likeness, like in a video game. Like EA Sports gave every college football player the opportunity, excuse me, I'm sorry, to opt in to get paid and have their image in the new college football game that's coming back. And it was X amount of dollars. That's NIL money. Commercials is NIL money. They're two separate entities.
We know that.
Not the school.
We know that.
But you keep saying the school is paying them. It's not the case.
You're telling me for all these coaches over the last couple of years, especially basketball coaches that have been caught. Hold on, Jeff. Have been caught paying players and paying their families. You're going to tell me that the school had nothing to do with that?
No, the coach can say, here's what happens. There'll be a collective of people, right? Me, you, and Speedy. Okay, here's the collective of people. We go to Kirby Smart. We're all Georgia Bulldogs fans. Imagine that, right? We're all Georgia Bulldogs fans. We go to Kirby Smart. We say, hey, we've raised X amount of dollars. I don't care. 10 million, 20 million. Pick a number. I don't care. So you can help us decide who gets what or who we should be paying. Who would you really like to have? And we will pay them. It's literally no different than say, like, look, let's remember Landry Fields for a second. Remember Landry Fields?
Oklahoma.
He did Modell's commercials. That's a New York thing. He did. Modell's is not connected to the Knicks, and they're still paying him. And by the way, this has been the same thing has been going on for years. As New York sports fans, how long has part of your free agent process been? Come to New York, you'll get more endorsement deals. That's part of the glitz and the glamour of coming to New York. We'll help you make more money.
But Jeff,
that's an NIL deal.
Jeff, I understand that, but that's professional sports. This is college sports.
It doesn't matter. No. It doesn't matter. They're separate things.
I understand.
I understand
that. I understand that.
The college wasn't paying. No. The college wasn't paying them, and they have the opportunity to go make money off their name, image, and likeness. They can make commercials.
We understand what NIL deals are. We speak about all.
Yes,
we do, Jeff.
Jeff,
the school is paying them. You're going to tell me that? Okay, so you say boosters, right? The boosters are paying them, right? Paying them money under the table. So you're going to tell me the school?
It's not under the table. It's very much above board.
But they're not getting in trouble. They're getting away with it. Okay, so the boosters are paying some of these kids.
Because it's allowed.
It's allowed. Boosters are allowed to pay players for all these years?
NIL money is allowed. No. The rule has changed. Before they weren't allowed to, and when they said, "Oh, now you can do NIL money," then it was allowed. This is the same argument as when Reggie Bush was taking things; it wasn't allowed, and then they changed the rules, so now it is allowed. So then they gave his Heisman back because it now is allowed.
Yeah, it took them 2 years to do that. It took them 2 years to do that.
Well, whatever. However long it took them, they gave it back to him. There has been a rule change that they can do that. Like, how is this any different than any other rule change?
Because now, Jeff, the schools are going to be allowed to pay them $20 million. And you keep, yes, $20 million. But that's not even the argument. But that's not even the argument of what we're even talking about.
But the Knicks were paying Landry Fields. So why should he make commercials? Isn't that like somehow subverting?
But Jeff,
the Knicks paying him because he was making money?
Jeff, that is a professional basketball team, okay? And this is college sports, okay?
Right.
And now it's become legalized that these guys can make money off their names, okay? We just spoke about that.
And now and starting next year they'll be able to actually get money. You're correct. Who knows how they're going to distribute that?
$20 million, which I disagree how that's going to work.
Well, every school is going to be different, right? But look at the NCAA or these schools as the NFL or the NBA or any other league. That's what it is. It's like any other league. And NIL money is endorsements and commercials and things like that. They're two separate things.
We got it. We understand that. It just, to me, the whole conversation that was brought up, and I've been saying this for a long, long time, that the schools should be allowed to pay the players. And now they're coming to an agreement that in 2025, they'll have all the Power 5 schools will have $20 million to distribute out to their players. How does that work? If you have a great basketball team,
right? But
you have a great football team.
Different. You're going. How does that work? But every school's going to be different.
I understand.
Every school's going to value things differently.
Okay, so all right, you have a star quarterback. All right, he's one of the best in the country. He's a 5-star recruit. He wants $5.5 million. Okay, you're going to pay him $5.5 million, and then your school brings in one of the best track and field runners in the country. He's going to run in the Olympics.
That's not how that's going to work.
How is that not going to work? That's a Power 5 school. It's a top track and field program,
right? All right, well, I'm going to tell you how this is going to work, because you're trying to lump the two things together. The school is going to say, we don't have that money for you. We have, and I'm just going to pull a number because there's going to be a lot of student athletes, $50,000. So here's 50. If you want $5.5 million, you're going to have to find the endorsements. That's what you're going to have to do.
They're making that anyways. They're going to make that anyways.
No, dude. That's where that money's going to come from, because they know they're going to have to spread that around. They know. But look, the $20 million by rule has to be spread around. And I don't know if it's going to be just to scholarship athletes or if walk-ons are going to get it too. I don't know how all of that's going to shake down. But if someone's like, oh, I want $5.5 million, you're going to have to go to the NIL people and see if that money is there for commercials or video games or a little doll, that they sell. Like that's where that's going to come from, like it always has.
Again, I'd like to see how this is going to work. I think there's going to be problems, and I think there are going to be walls that are going to be hit when this rule comes in effect in 2025.
And it's also going to force a lot of schools into precarious predicaments, right? I'll give you the biggest school that probably has the toughest predicament. It's only for schools in Power 5 conferences, correct?
Yep. Yeah. For right now,
Does
that could change.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Fair enough. Then is Notre Dame being left out?
No, they're in. They're
an ACC member.
But no. They're not an ACC member.
No, they are. They filed one as an ACC member.
Right. But they play an ACC schedule. But they famously were like, we're not joining the conference.
Yeah.
Famously have been like, we're not joining the conference. And it also shows you that where college football is going. Join a Power 5 or you're pretty much cooked. Like, so they are going to super conferences. Like we didn't already know that, right? With UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten and some of these other
in the next 10 years, there's going to be like 2 conferences and that's it. They're going to all compile into 2 conferences.
I'm for it. Yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm for it. Like, let's match all of them together and start playing real schedules. I am quite tired of, and I don't care who you're a fan of. It doesn't matter if you're a fan of Alabama or Georgia or Florida State. It doesn't matter. I'm sick of Georgia playing Alcorn State in week 1, or Alabama famously plays the Citadel or so. No, dude, we're not doing that. Every week should be a week where like Alabama plays an actual real school, right? Rutgers. They're not very good, but at least they're a real school.
I'm interested to see how this is going to work. But I do believe it. I agree with you. No more bye weeks. I think they just play out their games and then they go into a tournament. I think there should be more than 12. I think there should be 21 teams or something like that. Something that evens out where you go through a tournament and you play less games and more, and you go through a tournament of like, you have to go through 4 rounds to get to the championship game.
Well, they're going to 12. They're going to 12.
Right.
So that's what they're doing. They're going to 12. So that just is what it is.
Yeah.
But this is no different than like, you just got to consider like a high school kid as part of free agency, because that's what it is. He gets to choose where he wants to go. Just like you remember the Kevin Durant deal with Golden State? What was part of his deal? The owners went to him and said, we can only pay you as a team. We can only give you a max contract or whatever. But our team is in San Francisco, and I know every investor in Silicon Valley, and they hooked him up with investors to invest his money so he could make more money. That's NIL stuff. That's what that is. So the $20 million is separate from NIL.
No, we got that. We got that.
I think you're right, but I think you constantly conflate the two by saying, "Oh, this guy's going to get $5 million. What about the other 50?" It's not coming from the NCAA money that they're going to have.
No, I understand that the NIL and the $20 million that they're going to be getting and divvying out to their programs, I is different. I understand it. But anyways, Jeff, we have to let you go. You can call back.
Jeff. We have to go.
All right, Jeff. We'll get Jeff on a little bit later. Anyways, let's go to a quick break. We will have Tommy Scoops with our Sports Minute. But when we come back for the first time on the Sports Loudmouth, we will be talking to former Pistons and Clippers shooting guard Alex Acker here on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
That is right. We all know what time it is. The Loudmouth Sports Minute with the man of the hour, Tommy Scoops. Getting straight into the report right now. Over in the NBA, Pascal Siakam is expected to get a max contract after being traded by the Raptors midseason last season. The Pacers make a priority to pair veteran big man with Tyrese Halliburton long term. Switching over to the Mavericks. Earlier today, the Mavericks listed point guard Luka Doncic and Maxi Kleber as questionable, but are active and available for tonight's Game 4 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Switching over to the NFL, the Cardinals have announced that they have signed the first-round defensive lineman Darius Robinson to a 4-year rookie contract, giving the Missouri native $13 million with $6.9 million signing bonus. And finally, the NFLPA is looking to push back or even remove the offseason team activities altogether in favor of a longer training camp as soon as the 2025 season. Now it's going to be time for Scoop to Scores. I'm going to get into the scores going on right now. And over in the MLB, Boston has a 4-3 lead over Baltimore, with St. Louis having a 3-0 lead over Cincinnati. Oakland and Tampa Bay are both tied up at 0 apiece, with Washington and Atlanta also at 0 apiece. All right now it's going to be time for continuation of Scoop to Scores. We're at 8 o'clock right now. The Rangers are also going to be facing against the Panthers. And as mentioned, the Mavericks and Timberwolves at Game 4. So that's all the time I have right now for you guys. I'm going to kick it back to the boys for their next guest on the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including the Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listing for all our shows is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have never had this guy on our show. We were very happy that he told us yesterday that he was coming on. We've been trying to get this guy on. He's in Italy. He's hanging out. He's enjoying himself over there. I don't know what part of Italy, but we're happy to have him on. We're now talking to former Pistons and Clippers shooting guard, Alex Acker. What's going on, Alex?
Oh, you're muted, Alex.
Oh, there we go. We have Alex. You there? Do you have to tell him to go in and out, Speedy?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get Alex on. We don't have any sound for him, so we're gonna just wait for him. I want to give a shout out to Alex Acker. He's going to be joining us in just a few moments. We cannot hear him, so Speedy, you had to test this sound before we go. So let's tell Alex to go back in and come back in and go back out. But I want to finish up with the whole college football situation because Alex is having problems with his sound, and I don't want to go in and go out.
Can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
All right, yeah. So now, I think you went
go.
in on the second feed. Now we come in on the camera on the other feed. I think.
Okay, got you.
There you are. Okay.
All right, Alex. I want to apologize to the fans. We have Alex Acker on the show. So, Alex, how you doing? How's Italy going right now?
Man, it's doing great. It's doing really good, man. Appreciate you guys for actually having me. I know it's been a lot of ups and downs trying to get here. It's about 2:00. Not ducking nobody by no means, man. It's just a long time as far as the time zones, So I appreciate you guys for staying with me and let me be a part of this show for sure.
Absolutely, and we see your career, and you had a pretty good NBA career. You were in the NBA for 3 years, and you had a chance to play for the Pistons, a team that at one point were one of the better teams in the NBA. They were a fantastic organization, very well built. Joe Dumars was the GM for there many, many years. And this is a team and an organization that's been craving for a winner. And at the time that you were there, they were just, they couldn't get over the top. They were trying so many times to get a top draft pick. There was no more Ben Wallace. There was no more Rasheed Wallace. There was no more Richard Hamilton anymore over there. So what was it like playing for Detroit and the fans?
No, it was amazing. The atmosphere was amazing. The ambience was so surreal. It was, a kid coming from California to Detroit was eye-opening, especially from the weather standpoint. Went to Pepperdine University, so the sun was shining all day, every day until you get to Detroit where it's nothing but bliss and cold, you know. So that was really something that was shocking for me. But for the most part, it was a situation where a lot of underdogs were on that team trying to prove themselves. You know, the guys that you mentioned, as far as Rashid and Ben Wallace, we had Chauncey Billups as well, Mr. Big Shot, Rip Hamilton, you know, a guy from Connecticut who people thought was undersized as well too, was a tremendous attribute as far as contributing for a championship team. And we were definitely there, you know. We ran into a guy that was pretty phenomenal, that destroyed us in Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals, LeBron James, you know, who pretty much killed us with 26 points in the fourth quarter, you know. So that's kind of what tipped us over more than anything. What a lot of people, juggernauts-wise, came across in the Eastern Conference against LeBron James, for sure.
Yeah, so you mentioned Chauncey Billups, and he was definitely one of the better three-point shooters in that era, and one of the biggest personalities as well, now coaching with the Portland Trailblazers. So what was he like as a teammate, and what do you think of him potentially as a coach down the road as well?
Oh, man, he was big bro, for sure. I got a long story, but I keep it short, though. He's the main reason why I got drafted into the NBA. All seriousness, you know, coming from Pepperdine University, if anybody knows where that's at, it's in Malibu, California. The school where I went to, he actually came out to play pickup ball, and he brought a lot of individuals that were kind of like Monstars, if Space Jam, if that was something I can bring to the table, of individuals that came and played pickup ball. And me being who I was to help my own, he kept my name and brought it to Joe Dumars, and they were looking at me, even though I didn't know nothing about it that whole year. And he was the main reason why I got drafted into the NBA in the 60th pick and the last player pick. So his word is bond as far as who he is. And just getting to be able to see him 82 games and watch him destroy basketball at a point guard position of what he did, only probably taking about 6 or 7 shots the whole game and dominating the fourth quarter when it was needed, was pretty phenomenal, you know. So him as an athlete was phenomenal. Him as a coach is even more special to see, implementing those tactics and drills and all kinds of stuff that he had, making himself an elite player and giving it to these guys for the Portland Trailblazers. It's a building process for sure, you know, and I hope they're able to actually keep him around, being the fact that he had some ups and downs this year, but I think he's going to be a huge standpoint as far as their building process next year.
We are talking to former Pistons and Clippers shooting guard Alex Acker. Now, Alex, you look at players that you played against in the time that you were playing in the NBA. You had Allen Iverson, another guy that was one of the better shooting guards. It's so underrated. I don't know why nobody puts Allen Iverson as a top 10 player of all time. He's absolutely a top 10 player of all time. Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. You played against some of the greatest offensive guards we've ever seen. And now you look at the league, it's all guard play. What was it like playing against the great guards that you played against in the time that you were in the NBA?
Man, it's a great question. I think my transition into the NBA was that transition of guard play, you know, and we had some phenomenal guards. Steve Nash, we had Derrick Rose when he was in his prime, you know, Chauncey as well himself, AI when he was, you know, seasoned veteran as well too. The list goes on, you know, Darren Williams as well too. You know, you can mention Chris Paul, you know, I came in the same year as him in 05, and he was a phenomenal rookie, you know. So those guys actually changed the game, and AI was definitely the standpoint as far as the development of guard play coming in and being a juggernaut, undersized guard, as you can see, taking over at will, you know, and it was awesome to play with him, just to see, you know, how he actually approaches the game. And it's kind of funny. I got a million stories off of that, but, you know, the most important thing is he loved the game, and nobody can take that away from him for sure.
Practice.
So you coached for your coach in Detroit was Flip Saunders, who passed away a couple years ago. Very mentor for a lot of these Pistons players. You did very well in Minnesota as well, trying to change that culture around. So what was he like as a coach, and what are your best memories of him as a person?
Man, Flip was awesome. I didn't get a chance to actually talk to him too much because he was on the hot seat as far as coming in. I think anybody would have been taking that role as a head coach for the Detroit Pistons, being the fact that we only had one situation as far as winning. And coming in as a new coach, I think the guy that actually drafted me was Brown, and he left that same year when he came in, when I came in, and he didn't know too much about me at all. He wasn't the reason why I was there, but at the same time, he gave me enough shots as possible, and I took advantage of it. But it was small increments, which I wanted more. But I think for the most part, one conversation I had with him, he always grilled me as far as on the planes. He asked me what kind of plays these were, what kind of play this was, what were we running, and I was always sweating on the planes because I knew he was going to actually challenge me, and he would deduct money from me on the planes because I didn't know what it was. But he gave a huge booklet as far as like 500 plays at once, and he was known for having so many plays for counters and stuff like that. And it actually heightened my IQ level as far as being a great, phenomenal basketball player myself, and having the tenacity to have a 16-year career as well, too, to challenge myself as well. So shouts out to him and what he's done, and, his family, my condolences as well, too, for sure.
Alex, you come from Compton. It's not a very friendly place. Okay, everybody that I've been to Compton before, I've hung out over there. Believe it or not, I've seen the basketball. Some of the meanest basketball players come from that place, and I'm a big Dr. Dre fan. So I follow his music. I love his music, and the game was so different at the time that you were playing basketball over there and growing up over there in a place, you could say whatever you want. It wasn't a safe place. It wasn't a safe place to. So what was it like growing up in Compton?
No, it was actually one of those things where you actually had to know where you were going, and you had to figure it out real fast, what you were going to do, with your career, with your life. You can go left or you can go right, and those things were at every corner. And just steering the right situation of my dad putting the ball in my hand was a blessing to me, and I cherished that. I grew fond of that as well, and understood that this was my key of getting out. And I utilized that more than anything. And that was kind of one of those things where individuals saw that I was taking that serious, and they actually, bowed down as far as putting me in situations where I can be, tarnishing my career or anything of that sort, for sure. So I'm really blessed to be in a situation as far as understanding where I came from and carrying that load with me of understanding that, a lot of people were cheering me on, as well as a lot of people that weren't cheering me on, for that matter, and using that as leverage, for sure.
We are talking to former Pistons and Clippers shooting guard Alex Acker. Alex, this has been a debate for the last couple of months. Okay, it's really for the last couple of years, because LeBron James likes to open his mouth and say that he's the greatest basketball player of all time. I think he's out of his mind. I do. I think he's a great basketball player. I think he's number 2 of all time. But yeah. Michael Jordan, I'm sorry. I watched Michael Jordan at the top of his game. He, to me, changed the game of basketball, opened up so many paths for international basketball, from Italy to France to the Dominican Republic. I mean, there are basketball players coming from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
I want to know your honest opinion. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, who's the greatest basketball player of all time?
Oh my God. I think for me, actually growing up, to be honest with you, seeing Michael Jordan dominate and take over the game the way he did, was something that, every kid wanted to be, taking the last shot, being that guy to take the team on his back, no matter if you miss or make, you having that energy to actually do that. LeBron actually came in with a different tenacity as far as taking over the game, as far as facilitating, as far as a lot of other things of helping his team, needing his team. But Bron was one of those things where I look at it like this, to be honest with you. If you were to spend your last money on a ticket, who would you go see? You know what I mean? Who would you go see? If you had your last dollar, who would you go see? And again, like if you were watching these two juggernauts compete against each other, who are you looking at more? You know, like who would you be looking at more? Would you be looking at LeBron or would you be looking at Jordan the way he actually plays?
We watch both of them play. We're the same age. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 42. You're 41. So
Yeah.
again, I watched both of these guys in the prime of their careers. I remember when LeBron was drafted. I remember when Cleveland just automatically were the worst team in the NBA. He comes from Cleveland. He goes to Cleveland, and there she blows. And Michael Jordan really changed the game because I look at the game differently now because of Michael Jordan, the athletic, ability that Michael Jordan had in the 90s. Everybody says, well, if Michael Jordan had that athletic ability now, everybody has Michael Jordan's athletic ability. Meanwhile, everybody keeps comparing Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan, which is ridiculous because Michael Jordan wouldn't be doing what he's doing in the playoffs against the Dallas Mavericks. That series probably would have been over already if it was Michael Jordan. So they're different. They're different beasts. Now, that doesn't mean that Michael Jordan isn't Michael Jordan and LeBron James can't be compared by each other. I mean, they can be compared because they have dominated their eras. They're the kings of their eras, and it's a different game. It's a different style of game. But that's why I don't understand it. And by the way, I respect LeBron believing that he believes that he is the greatest basketball player of all time. It's just the way he does it, where he comes out. He won on the ESPY Awards. And he speaks, and he has his wife, he has his kids saying it. Why don't you say you're the greatest basketball player? Michael Jordan came out, and when they asked Michael Jordan, he looked at the camera and he says, "Well, who do you think is the greatest basketball player of all time?"
And
he
leave it up to
smiled.
you. Yeah.
And you know what he does? This is what he does. That's what he does. He says, "That's what I'm 6-0, baby."
Yeah.
That's what he said. So that's the way he looks at it. But I mean, numbers. LeBron's going to have all the numbers. He's going to have all by the time he's done. But the basketball world now is all about numbers. Now it's not about what they do on and off the court. And Michael Jordan, he changed everything in athletics with the sneaker deals. Michael Jordan's still making $42 million a year by Nike. It's the highest and the most priced sneaker out still to this day. And so it says a lot about his brand and who he is as a player.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can go heavy-winded all day. You can talk about, Michael Jordan for sure. I think this era is all about stats. I think everybody believes in the stats. Everything is stats. And you can go pound for pound of what stats is and what it does. But it's like you said in the beginning, if you grew up in that era and you actually saw games and you saw the standout crowds of the Chicago Bulls and the competitive drive of who
anywhere he went, he sold out.
Even
he was
the
always
U.S.
playing.
Olympic Games, like even the U.S. Olympic Games, how they had to shut down buses and routes and stuff like that for him to actually play. He's a phenomenal individual, man. I've never met Jordan. I've seen him from one side of the court to the other. And his aura is just something that you got to just see for sure.
Here's a question. Do you own a pair of LeBrons?
Nah, I don't. They heavy. I'm a guard.
How many Jordan sneakers do you own?
Maybe 50. I ain't gonna lie.
All right, arrest my case. There you go. There's your answer, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Jordan, 50-0.
Yeah.
So obviously you're living now in Italy, and you also played after your first stint with the Pistons. You also played in Greece and in Spain for a while. So what was it like, just the cultural change of going to Europe when you went over there, and what is the basketball consumption like over there for their fans?
No, man, it's really amazing. To see the ball dribbling on the other side of the world is pretty awesome. The approach of how they actually go about teaching the game and the way they actually develop is pretty phenomenal as well too. It's all oriented as far as fundamentals, which I really love. The foundation to having fundamentals, the ground set of simple things, ball fakes, cutting, moving without the ball, running, plays without actually pounding the ball and dominating, utilizing the big still as well into the post play and stuff like that, emphasizing defense a lot more, and using that as your offense and strategically thinking the game, which is pretty phenomenal. It actually is literally like a grown man in college, if I would say, and I really understood that you got to have an elite jump shot to play out here. you can't use athleticism all the time, because there are some trees and some walls that you can't go around, because there's no 2.9 second for bigs to actually get in and out of. If you're going past one individual, you damn sure got another one coming up. So that teardrop is definitely needed. A floater, all calibers of how to be fundamentally sound and utilizing every single weapon that you possibly can in order to score. And it's really, really good to actually see the transition. And it was kind of scary for me too, because I didn't know nothing about the European game at all. And once I came over here, I really loved it for my first 2 years. I played with Olympiacos, then I played with FC Barcelona. And then literally when I came back to the NBA that next year, the game slowed down for me tremendously. It opened up so many avenues tremendously. I was more of a weapon, and not just having one arsenal as far as scoring. There was so many multiple levels of scoring for me, and it came so easy for me that second year coming back into Detroit.
It's so interesting because we look at some of these great foreign players. As a matter of fact, the three best players, I believe, in the NBA right now is Joel Embiid. Well, it was Joel Embiid. I would say Giannis.
Yeah.
I would say Nikola Jokic. And I would say Luka Doncic. Those three players are all foreign players. They're all from foreign, colonies. Now, you look at where the NBA is going now. It used to be dominated by the United States. If you look at, what was it, like 10 years ago? You can argue the three best players were LeBron James and Dwayne Wade or one of those guys, in the top three of all time, and you could look at them shooting guards and twos and threes. Now it's dominated by foreign players. If you look right now, that it looks like Luka Doncic is heading right now to the NBA Finals. If he wins an NBA championship, you have back-to-back years the best players in the league that from the Western Conference win a championship. You have Nikola Jokic and then Luka Doncic. I mean, it's a different game now.
No, it's a different game for sure. The NBA has always been looking over here. They're taking more chances than anything. I think I remember when the GM for the Chicago Bulls picked what's my man's name? Kukoc, exactly. And there was a shock to like, who the hell is this 18-year-old kid? And they're actually a lot more easy to develop because the skill set's already there. And now you're implementing your strategy as far as how you want them to play. And they're team oriented already. So it's a foundation already set. So those things are easy, when it comes to that. And then from that point on, you just let the kid play, and using his wit from that standpoint. So they're drafting them young. They're not even looking so much as college. A lot of guys that I know personally that I've seen play, that you guys probably have no idea who they are. They're coming over there, into the NBA. And they're very polished, and they're not using their athleticism. Just like you mentioned, Luka Doncic is very skilled. He's not athletic at all. He was athletic. He was windmill and dunking when he was over here in Europe. And he made the game slow down, as far as the Euro step and stuff like that. And guys from, college are trying to understand how to play that game as well, too. But the game is actually moving in that direction as far as the NBA.
I think it's the size. When you watch these guys, when you watch Jokic, when he's on the court, I mean, he looks like the least athletic player on the court. But the guy sees the court better than anybody I've ever seen, any big man I've ever seen. I mean, the way he passes, the way he dribbles the ball, it looks so boring. But when he does crazy things, he's shooting threes all over the court. I'm like, this guy's shooting a 30-foot 3-point jumper, and it's going in. And then Luka Doncic, splash. And then Luka Doncic the other day, he's dribbling the ball. It looks so lazy and so boring. And he's just dominating. He gets into the paint at will. You can't stop him. He backs you up. He's going to beat you on. He's going to beat you on the side. He's going to beat you to the hole. He'll pull up, pick you up on a pick and roll and shoot a jumper. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. He really is a phenomenal player. These guys, when you look at their body, you look at guys like LeBron James, you're like, wow, that guy could be a Greek god. You look at Luka Doncic, I'm like, where the hell his athletic ability comes from? I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Nah, it's self-efficient for sure. They waste no energy when it comes to playing basketball, and it's almost a point where they don't need too many dribbles. They're getting to their spots and they're executing, and you can't do anything as far as stopping them one way. They have counters off of fading both ways, directions, and it's pretty remarkable to see how easy they're making the game and how hard and difficult it is that individuals are trying to guard these guys, and they're making the game look even more easier, and they're putting so many emphasis on double teaming, and they're making right reads. They're passing the ball the right direction and stuff like that, throwing lobs. Luka Doncic's doing an amazing job with his bigs and stuff like that, facilitating the ball, playing well with Kyrie Irving. It's pretty phenomenal to see both of these guys, yin and yang, pretty much, go at anybody.
We are talking to former Pistons and Clippers shooting guard Alex Acker. Before we let you go, man, there's a lot of humility with the NBA and NBA players. And there are three players over the years that have said some mighty dumb things in the NBA. And I want you to vote who's the dumbest and who's the smartest. Okay. You ready? This is true. I'm going to help you out here.
Okay.
You have, we'll go first with Draymond Green.
I knew it.
He came out recently and said, now quote me on this, says that the NBA is not set up to make players wealthy.
I just read that.
That is the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard in my entire life, because there are guys right now. Jaylen Brown just got a $400 million contract. Jason Tatum's going to get a $500 million contract. You got guys right now on the bench. The 13th guy who doesn't even play on the court, he's making like $1 million, $1.5 million. So that's one. All right. Hold on. You have Kyrie Irving. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Who's come out and said that the earth is flat and he can prove it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a ridiculous statement that I don't know where he gets his information. Maybe he hangs out with a bunch of scientists and, he's a scientist of his own. He went to Duke, but he didn't graduate. So, so there's the other one. And then there's Steph Curry, who came out and said that we never were ever on the moon. So tell me,
Steph Curry said that? I didn't hear that one.
Yes. Steph Curry came out and said that it was, what did he say? He said it was movie. What was movie?
Yeah, it was
based.
like movie satellite type thing. It was not real.
Movie based. It was not real. It was made in Hollywood. So that's what he came out and said. So from 1 to 3, who's the dumbest?
You're gonna have me on live TV, and this is stamped and permanent right here. So I can't.
Don't worry. I mean, I've said it many, many times. Who's the dumbest? I think they're both. All three of them are dumb. But they as dumb as they are, they're making millions and millions of dollars, and they don't have to worry about anything ever again. But who's the dumbest? 1 for 3.
That Draymond Green pretty much was kind of weird to me, because for him to say that doesn't make any sense. You making this amount of money, and you're talking about guys are actually susceptible of tanking and going broke. The reason is because the technicals are pretty much for you. They're all targeting towards individuals that are outlashing and not going about the rules the right way. Like, you're fighting referees, you're fighting individuals, you're kneeing people in the nuts and kicking them in, when they're down, all kinds. It's not basketball. That's WCC, WWF types basketball. That's not needed. So you're the reason for these rules. It's nobody else that is not abiding by those rules. You know what I mean? So it makes no sense at all.
So you got Draymond as number 1. Okay.
Yeah, I got Draymond as number 1.
He's number 1 as the dumbest. Who's number 2?
Kyrie Irving's statement is pretty funny. The world is flat. I've been hearing that a lot now, to be honest with you. It's interesting. You know what I mean? YouTube
His
to
brain
make
is
everything.
flat. That's what's flat. I mean, his brain is flat. He's a great basketball player,
He's a
phenomenal
great
basketball
basketball
player.
Yeah.
I honestly, you know what's so funny? Before we let go, I've been arguing that if Kyrie just kept his mouth shut, he might be the most talented basketball player I've seen since Michael Jordan. Honestly, all around talent, ball handling skills, shooting skills, going at will to the hole wherever he wants. Nobody could stop him. He's a great free throw shooter. He even actually could play defense if he wants to play defense. He's actually pretty good. So, I mean, is there anything that guy can't do? But the problem is his mouth gets him into trouble, and we might never know what he really could be.
Yeah. Now we hear him saying a lot of things that even his teammates, you know, KD was kind of like, "What is going on, bro? You brought me out here to all the way to Brooklyn to hoop with you, and you on a Trent or a rant about some crazy stuff going on." So those things actually got some turmoil and some backlash as far as his character, who he is. Even you know, it kind of left a stain in Harden's, you know, relationship as well too. But who am I to say that? You can just see it on the court, you know, as far as the energy. But yeah, he's a different individual. I think now he's calmed down a lot. He actually said that he found a home in Dallas, and it looks like, you know, the love is reciprocated for sure, as far as the energy in the locker room for sure. He found a way to find how to play with Luka Doncic, which is somebody that dominates the hell out of the basketball. But yeah, it's working, you know. So whatever he's saying, I guess is working now for sure.
Well, I guess he found God, or whatever that God
He's
is.
working
I
now.
hope he doesn't start talking about the Buddha, because then I'm gonna really think he's out of his damn mind. But anyways, I know you're up. You stood up. You stayed up to come on this interview, so we really appreciate the time. I know you're a busy guy. Keep up the good work.
I got a question before I go. Who do you guys got winning the chip?
Speedy?
I unfortunately have the Celtics, as much as it pains me as a Knicks fan.
I'm gonna go with Dallas. I'm going to go with Dallas. I think there's something about this team, Cinderella-wise, that the players that they brought in, Washington and Gafford, I think this is a different team. I think they're starting to believe. And when you see that, and we've seen this with Dallas before, and Jason Kidd, he won a championship and he wasn't even the second or third guy of that team when they won that championship with Dallas. He was the old man that was one of the best point guards I've ever seen when it comes to like the ability of passing the ball and seeing the court the way he did. But he transformed that team when he went there and really gave them that leadership. I think he's doing that as a coach. As long as he doesn't drive into poles and get drunk, we're good with Jason Kidd. Okay. We love Jason. Just stay away from driving drunk. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. But I have a lot of respect for Jason Kidd. I've met him a couple of times. He's a very good guy. He's a nice guy, and he knows the game of basketball. So I'm so happy for him that the Dallas Mavericks gave him an extension. He deserves it, very well deserved, and I do. I think this is the first time that I believe Jason Kidd has a team as a head coach that is buying into what he is doing. Yep, and I think they're going to win. I think they're going to be. I don't trust the Celtic team. Okay, I really don't. Jaylen Brown, hot, cold. Jason Tatum, hot, cold. Porzingis, does he stay healthy? Does he actually play?
Is he coming back?
Yes.
Porzingis is coming back, right?
He has more time to rest now.
True. Got a whole week.
I don't know. Porzingis is an injury-prone guy. He played in New York. Him and his brother wanted to buy half the team or own half of the team. I'm so happy he's out of here. To deal with that craziness is enough for me to say sayonara. So, but I think it's Dallas. I think they're the Cinderella team. I think it'll be fun to see Dallas win another championship, and
it'd be awesome.
And very well deserved too. They beat a Timberwolves team that everybody thought was just going to run all over them, including yours truly.
Even myself, I thought the same thing. I thought Ant was on a rant to go, you know, all the way to the top and, you know, actually take over. And Kyrie ran into that guy, that unbelievable guy that everybody counted out for sure. And they didn't think Luka Doncic had it in him to actually, you know, give up some of the load as far as the leadership. And it's working really well for these guys, man. They're buying in.
I don't want to hear about Anthony Edwards anymore. The next Michael Jordan, he's the best player in the world. The best, I've said this, and I think he was robbed this year. Luka Doncic was the MVP of the league this year. And I said that. He was the best player in the league. Listen, you're going to give it to Nikola Jokic. I don't think he's going to complain. That's his best friend.
Yeah.
They love each other. So, but Luka Doncic, that guy is an unbelievable player. I wish that's the one thing Mark Cuban did right. That was the one thing, trading up and
That's crazy.
And trading Trae Young for him. I mean, boy, oh boy, was that a steal. I mean,
Yeah. No, it's a good steal. Yeah. And that's the thing that's the thing we just talked about as far as trading the European for American, just like that, believing in that situation. So yeah, that was a smart, homework done right situation for sure.
Yeah, well, hopefully the Knicks continue doing the smart things that they're doing, because I'm excited for next year. I think this next year could be a year where we could be celebrating the Knicks winning a championship. If they could have stayed healthy this year, I think they would have competed. Indiana just completely bombed. I understand they lost Halliburton, but that's not an excuse. Okay.
Yeah.
You got to play. The Knicks, they lost practically their whole starting lineup, and they still played, and they still worked their butt off.
Yeah. Bronson had pretty much eight fingers, 7 toes. Phenomenal. Yeah, it was great. It was a great run the Knicks had. Sky's the limit as far as what they're doing next year. Yeah, they have no more pieces to actually bring to the table. Just a full, healthy roster in the preseason, and they're ready to go for sure. They did some amazing things.
Maybe they should reach out to you and bring you in as a backup point guard.
They need to bring him in as a consultant to make sure Tom Thibodeau can play guys 40 minutes a game.
Anyways, Alex, we really appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work. And whenever you come back to the States, we'd love to hang out. Come out to New York, and we'll show you around, buddy.
I appreciate it. That sounds like a play. All right, guys. I take care, okay?
All right. Alex Acker, he's fantastic, and he's doing well right there overseas in Italy, man. I've been to Italy. I DJ'd in Italy when I was younger, in my 20s. It is beautiful. It's a beautiful city, but I've never got a chance to sightsee. And maybe, if I fly over there, maybe Alex, you show me around, because I
would love to. That's one of the things that I actually did too. When I actually was playing, I never got a chance to see the actual cities that I was playing, because it was always one game and go to the next situation, go to the next. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna raise my family out here and migrate out here and really get a chance to actually see the world. You know what I mean? I've seen everything there is to see in LA and all these other places. Let me lock into, raising a family out here. And it was really a blessing to actually have that, moving forward for sure.
Could you speak Italian? Could you give me an Italian? Could you give me some Italian over here?
Ciao tutti. Buonanotte. I'm going to sleep, man.
See you later, Alex. We really appreciate the time, buddy.
All right. See you
Alex Acker. He's fantastic. Really, really good guy.
It's good for both.
It's good for both of us. There we go. As we all know. Why don't we go to a quick break? When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the whole Draymond Green saga, and Jason and Travis Kelce speaks out about Tom Brady. Why are they bringing up Tom Brady? He's done, but we will get into that when we come back here. But first, our Sports Minute with Tommy Scoops.
This is the Sports Loudmouth Sports Minute.
Are you ready to get loud?
With Tommy Scoops.
Everyone already knows the deal. I am back for another update of the Sports Loudmouth. I am Tommy Scoops to give you guys straight up the rundown over in the NBA. The 76ers are prepared to sign Jimmy Butler on max contract if he is landed in a trade. Jimmy Butler is a free agent after next season and could possibly reunite with Philadelphia. After that, Thunder GM Sam Presti admitted Gordon Hayward's trade was a bad move. Gordon Hayward's wife took to Instagram to voice her frustration, saying Hayward and her both knew the trade would not work before even being traded. Going over into the NFL, the Bengals wide receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins earlier today announced that they are skipping team offseason workouts. Head coach Zach Taylor downplayed the situation, saying both players are professional veterans and confident that they will be ready for go time. And lastly, the Vikings signing fourth-round pick cornerback Kyrie Jackson, adding the Oregon native to the Minnesota defense. All right, now it's going to be time for Scoops and Scores. We're in the MLB. Boston still has a 4-3 lead over Baltimore. St. Louis now has a 5-1 lead over Cincinnati. Oakland with a 3-0 lead over Tampa. Washington and Atlanta still at 0 apiece, with Chicago having a 1-0 lead over Milwaukee, while Minnesota has a 2-0 lead over Kansas City. The Dodgers currently have a 2-0 lead over the Mets, and the Rangers and Panthers have just actually started just now, and Mavericks and Timberwolves still expected to get underway at 8:30. Currently, all the time I have for you guys, I'm going to kick it back to the boys, of course, for the continuation of the Sports Loudmouth.
This is the Sports Loudmouth.
Willie Whoppers, Speedy! Willie Whoppers!
No, I would rush from behind.
631-672-3108 is the number to call. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Daryl Marks, my co-host, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Wednesdays and Thursdays, but it's no longer Wednesdays and Thursdays. I got to get used to that. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out a local listing is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. I keep saying Wednesdays because I'm so used to doing Wednesdays. Over the last 3 years, it's been Wednesdays and Thursdays. Now it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're here live. But Alex Acker was fantastic. He really gave us a good take of what's going on and his thoughts of the NBA now and when he was in the NBA. So, and we spoke about Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Michael Jordan, the comparison to Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Very interesting. Another interesting guy, as we spoke about him as stupidity, is Draymond Green. He was on the Shaquille O'Neal show, the big podcast, and he says that the NBA players aren't, well, hold on, that the NBA isn't set up to make players wealthy. That's what he said, okay? And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he came out and said that. Also, what I wanted to get into was a lot of players over the last several years also have made premium money. And it's crazy because there are players right now in the NBA that never step on a basketball court. They're like the 12th guy off the bench. They might step on the court 3 minutes every week. And that's for like time that nobody gives a crap about. If the game is over or they're up by 25 points and nobody cares. And those guys are making 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million. Could you imagine? Okay. And this is the honest truth. Could you imagine just being 6'5"? You can hit an open jump shot. And all you have to do is play pickup basketball in practice games. That's all you got to do. You got to play with the team and be on the second team. And you're going to get a chance to make $2.5–3 million. Why wouldn't you do that? Get to eat at 5-star restaurants. Get to stay at 5-star hotels. Get to fly on 5-star airplanes and hang out and play cards on during your spare time. Go to Foxwoods if you're here in New York and do what you want in your spare days. You could do practically anything you want and make millions and millions of dollars and never step on a basketball court. The fact is, obviously, Draymond Green is trying to spread his happy cheer and his real craziness throughout the NBA. Now, I don't know Draymond Green personally. I've never hung out with the guy. I know he's crazy. And to say that he hasn't made a lot of money, Draymond Green in his career made $177.8 million. That's almost $200 million. Is he worth $200 million? He's not an elite player. He never was an elite player. Did he win Defensive Player of the Year 2 or 3 times? Yes, he did. I would say 2 out of the 3 times that he won, he shouldn't have never won. Okay? The NBA obviously felt that team had a lot, that championship team, he was the backbone of those championship teams, and they believed that Draymond Green was the reason, or one of the main reasons, why they went as far as they did and won those titles, especially without Kevin Durant. But I'm going to say this. NBA players are making more money than any sport. Besides baseball, and I think baseball players are making ridiculous money, especially with the deferred money and some of the deals that they're getting. Basketball players are making more money yearly. Just think about it. Damian Lillard, over the last 2 years, in his 2-year signing deal that he had with the Trailblazers, was making $60 million a year. There is not one baseball player making $60 million a year, except Ohtani, who just signed that mega deal. And by the way, he's not making $70 million a year because it's deferred. He's only making $2 million a year. So right now, the highest paid athlete over the last 3 years in a year-to-year basis is Damian Lillard. Just think about that. LeBron James came out recently and said that he wants to make $60 million a year. He wants to sign a 3-year, $60 million a year. That's $180 million, which would make LeBron James the highest paid player in the NBA at the age of 40. Does anybody think that LeBron James at this point of his career is worth $60 million? The answer is no. But the deals, the TV deals that they have right now, the NBA's made with all the deals with TNT and ESPN, and now, with all the new deals with TNT, and now they're not going to have that, what do they call that show with TNT?
Inside the NBA, yeah.
Inside the NBA. They're taking that away because I think somebody bought the rights to TNT and basketball moving forward. So they didn't want these guys like Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, they were not going to take pay cuts. So what they decided to do is get rid of the whole show. So for him to, and by the way, Draymond Green has been a part of that panel over the last couple of weeks. So again, I don't know why Draymond Green is opening his mouth, but again, he's trying to sell his podcast, and he's on Shaquille O'Neal, and he says, I wonder what Shaquille O'Neal said. I didn't really watch the podcast, so I don't know how he responded to that, but it's hard to believe to say that NBA players are not making enough money to be wealthy. Okay. That doesn't make any sense. So the take doesn't make any sense when you're looking at players right now, even Jonte Porter, who just got suspended for life for the NBA. He made in his two and a half year span, he made, I think, $4.6 million. $4.6 million to play how many minutes? Now, recently he's played a little bit more. I think the last year and a half, he's played 11 or 12 minutes a game. But I mean, when he came into the NBA, he was playing like 3-4 minutes. He was averaging 2 points a game. So, and that guy's making $2.5 million a year. So to tell me they're underpaid is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and you also look at even comparing it to baseball. Like I know there's a lot of baseball players that get a lot of money, these massive contracts, but think about the discrepancy of the.
It's all guaranteed. Right, it's not football.
But even so, like the worst players in baseball or veteran hitters that people consider washed up, they have trouble getting contracts. Like, when you come up in baseball, you have to come up through arbitration. You come up through a rookie contract. You're getting less than $1 million a lot of the time, unless you're paid early, like the Braves have done with their players, which we'll talk about Acuna later, and the Blue Jays and the White Sox. Certain teams have done that recently. You're getting less than $500,000 a lot of the time. You're not seeing that with these basketball bench players that are still making $3-4 million. And then you also look at the really bad contracts that exist in basketball. They're the hardest things to get out of. Ben Simmons is making $38 million for doing practically nothing. He plays 12 games a year. He can't shoot the basketball. Like Alex Acker was saying, like, you need to be able to have a jump shot in today's game. He might have the worst one in the league. And he's making $38 million. For comparison, the highest paid hockey player is making $16 million.
If you made $5 million a year and you know what to do with that money, you would be very wealthy. You would be very wealthy. Your family's family can live off that money.
Right.
Okay. If you're making $5 million a year, Draymond Green at the top of his game was making $25 million a year.
Right.
26. I mean, you're going to tell me $26 million doesn't make you wealthy? I mean, come on. $26 million would make anybody wealthy. If I made $26 million in my whole lifetime, I'd be very wealthy. My family's family would be very wealthy. My cousin's very wealthy. He has a Fortune 500 organization, and I think he's worth about $16 million. Okay, that's wealthy. Okay, so for him to come out and say that basketball doesn't make NBA doesn't make players wealthy, that's ridiculous. With all the deals that they're making, the endorsements that they're getting, sneaker deals and everything like that, you wouldn't be getting that if it wasn't for the NBA.
Think about all the contracts that the Knicks have tried to get out of in the Phil Jackson era. Courtney Lee, who got that big contract. Joakim Noah got that big contract. Phil Jackson himself, the Knicks are still paying. Like, that's a lot of money that's still being paid to this day because of the Knicks dysfunction. And then I was just talking about with the Nets with Ben Simmons. Like, nobody's going to take the Ben Simmons contract, so the Nets are stuck with paying him $38 million a year for 3 more years for doing nothing. He sits on the bench in his freaking suits all the time, and he had his Met Gala suit 2 weeks ago with a clock on. Like, he's doing idiotic things. You were talking about with Alex Acker, like the 3 idiots that were saying things. Ben Simmons is an idiot in his own right, too, and he's making $38 million. Money that could definitely go to another player of value. And you were talking about with Jonte Porter. Yeah, he's making a lot more money now with the way that these bench players work. In comparison to other sports where in football, like these 52nd and 53rd guys on a roster are getting practice squad money. That's less than $1 million. Hockey, forget about it. Like, I mean, their salary cap is going up a little, which is nice to see, but their best player is making $16 million and their Ben Simmons making $38 million. Like, the logic is just so flawed in everything.
Everything that comes out of his mouth, the logic is flawed. Okay. He says that he didn't try to choke Rudy Gobert out when he did. It was an accident. He fell into my arms. I was trying to make sure that he wasn't going to fall down. When he put him in a rear naked chokehold, he looked like he was going to choke him out. So, I mean, that's the problem with Draymond Green. He likes to speak. He likes to say his piece. And listen, everybody, you have a platform. And if somebody's going to give you a platform to speak, they're going to give you a chance to speak it. Inside the NBA, they're letting him do that. Right. He's bringing in fans. So, of course, he's out there. He could spit out that spew that he spits out. And you wonder, like, why is anybody giving him the logic or the mic to even say anything? Because what happens over the next couple of years after this guy walks away from the game of basketball, you give him a mic and you let him say anything, it could cause a lot of problems, not just in the NBA, but throughout the world. You have a platform of millions and millions of people listening to you. And you have the mic and you're saying all this craziness. And then you're looking at it and you're like wondering, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you talking about, Draymond? And that is the problem right now. The NBA has too many outspoken players. Right. Guys like Draymond Green, who's outspoken. He uses his platform. And that's what happened with Colin Kaepernick. Say whatever you want about Colin Kaepernick and how you disagree or you agree to what he did. Colin Kaepernick believed in what he believed in. He used the platform, the NFL platform, to do what he did. It pissed off the NFL, and that's why Colin Kaepernick is not in the NFL anymore, because he used a platform that he should have never used. And if he was going to do that, he should have done that on his own time. That was the problem, and that's why the NFL and a lot of these teams were not going to take on a player like that. Why do you think Bowers right now? I'm sorry, Trevor Bauer. Trevor Bauer right now, because even though he was never accused, well, he was accused, but he was never convicted of sexually doing the things that he did, and he got off of it. No MLB team is going to take him on as a pawn, because if they take him on, they're going to answer to women organizations, they're going to answer to press releases, and they're going to have to answer why they bring in a guy that's a woman beater. Why are they bringing in a guy that doesn't get along with teammates? That's the problem. As good as Trevor Bauer is, and he's a sensational pitcher, he's still a sensational pitcher. Nobody's going to take on a disrespectful nut job who off the field over the years has said some crazy ass things. So I unfortunately, Trevor Bauer hurt himself. And again, these players hurt themselves by using platforms they should not be using at the time they're using it. So if I were them, Draymond Green, I would use his platform after he leaves the NBA. At the NFL, with Colin Kaepernick, I would have stepped away from football and then used his platform to speak his piece on whatever he believes. And the same thing with Trevor Bauer. It obviously came out what he did, but the other things that he has done over the years, if Trevor Bauer was a nice guy and this came out, I mean, look at Chapman. Aroldis Chapman, yep. I mean, pulled out a gun and shot to a wall, and he was, some people say he was shooting at his girlfriend, okay, or his fiance or wife, whatever she was to him, okay? And he's still playing in the MLB. Why? Because he was a likable guy. People like him. Domingo Germán. Yeah. I mean, he beat up his wife, twice? Yep. And still is playing in the MLB.
Mike Clevenger, too. Beat up his wife and his kid.
But because Trevor Bauer he was such a bad guy and none of his teammates liked him, right? Nobody's going to give him a shot because nobody's going to take a chance on a guy that said some derogatory things over the years about his coaches, about players that he played with, and even women that he has said that he's done things to over the years. So unfortunately, Trevor Bauer really screwed himself, and so did half of these guys. And so Draymond Green is using a platform that obviously is bringing him in endorsements and money, extra money, and he's going to say anything, and the NBA is allowing him to do it. So shame on the NBA for allowing him to do that. So that's just my opinion. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking to co-founder, All 22 Premium Fantasy Football fantasy football analyst, Chris Lombardi, here on the Sports Loudmouth.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Of course my kid's in the right car seat. Well, I think he is.
Yeah, my kid's in a booster seat. He was ready to move up. He is ready, right?
Her car seat looks like the right size.
There are probably rules on when to move up to a booster seat, aren't there?
Rear facing, forward facing. I think I have it right.
Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Don't think you know. Know you know. Go to safercar.gov/the right seat.
I know my child's in the right car seat, or else I wouldn't get in the driver's seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports. This is the Sports Loudmouth.
And it's sexual. I'm going to trust a medical professional. Don't share a Wu-Tang pie with the Rock. Who the hell is that shit? I can tell. I have zero interest in putting balls into a knot. 99% of the world would too.
631-672-3108. You're listening to the Sports Loudmouth. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, Speedy. Petey, that was Speedy's soundboard. We have Speedy as his own soundboard. Ladies and gentlemen, I have my own. We have some of Jeff. Evolution. We have, there you go, Evolution. Go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including The Loudmouth with me and Speedy Petey every single Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. All you have to do to tune in and check out our local listing is go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Alex Acker was fantastic, and now we have a very special guest. He's been on our show before. Very happy, very excited to have him on. He's been very busy over the last couple of days, really couple of weeks with obviously the draft, and now he's getting ready for fantasy football as OTAs are about to start and as players are deciding to sit and not show up to OTAs. We're now talking to co-founder of All 22 Premium Fantasy Football Analyst, Chris Lombardi. Chris, what's up, buddy?
Doing amazing. How are you guys? I walked into some heavy stuff, though. There was like domestic violence conversations going on. I think your advertisement was about car seat accidents. It was getting heavy on here before I joined.
Well, you know what it is. It's Draymond Green likes to open up his mouth, and he came out and said on the Shaquille O'Neal show that the NBA isn't set up to make players wealthy. And I said that is the most ridiculous take because you have Jaylen Brown that just got a $400 million contract. Is he worth $400 million? He's averaging what? 23 points a game, about 7 rebounds a game, and 5 assists. Yeah, he's really worth about $50-something million a year for the rest of his damn life in the NBA. So, I mean, it's ridiculous how much these players are making. What are you going to do with $400 million? Seriously, what are you going to do with $400 million? That's just Draymond Green being Draymond Green, an idiot. So that's what we were talking about. And then we brought up Trevor Bowers and obviously Colin Kaepernick, all these guys that use their platforms, the NFL platform, the NBA platform, to spew out their craziness, and that's what got them into trouble. If they did it offset, maybe when they retired from the game and used their own platform, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad as it was, and it made it look as bad as it was. It was a story because they did it on the field, they're saying it, and they're still in their professional sports. So that's what we were talking about.
You hit a deep mark with me because like I stopped watching the Yankees for about 3 years because they had Aroldis Chapman and Domingo Germán on their team, yet they wouldn't let guys have hair below their shoulder. They had to have clean shaven face, but you could beat your wife. It was insane. So I get it.
It's just ridiculous. And that's the same thing with Ohtani. I mean, we bring up Ohtani. Ohtani's getting away with the betting scheme. They investigated it in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, they found out offshore accounts that Ohtani had nothing to do with it. Come on. Well, how much did the MLB pay off the FBI to leave this guy alone? Everybody believes it. I mean, any analyst that sits there and tells me and denies that that's not true is ridiculous. Every single person we've had on this show, Chris, every one of them, analysts, believes that Ohtani had something to do with it. How is his best friends on the team getting in trouble now? How did he not know anything about it? You're going to tell me that none of his friends were telling him about what they were doing with his interpreter? Get out of here. That is a bunch of bull. He was recruiting them. He was recruiting them. It's nonsense. But you know what? That's the MLB. It's all about mucho dinero. But we're not here to talk about that. As everybody knows, we're talking to co-founder of All 22 Premium Fantasy Football Analyst, Chris Lombardi. So, Chris, why don't we get into it? Because the NFL season is right around the corner. It's coming as fast as I can't even believe how fast it's coming. And there are two players, Jamar Chase and Higgins, that might not show up to OTAs. They already said that they're not showing up to OTAs. And now the coaches are making excuses because they want new contracts and they want to get paid. What are your thoughts to Higgins and Jamar Chase getting paid? I don't one or the other. Do you believe both of them are getting paid, or you think one's going to get paid and the other one's going to get traded?
No, and honestly, I don't think either of them should really be getting paid right now. And I think what the Bengals are doing is smart business in the NFL, right? Like the way their contracts are structured, you have to show up for work, right? And Higgins is on the last deal of his contract, but that means he still has a year left in his contract that he should be working to play for. He is likely to get traded. They just drafted Jermaine Burton, receiver from Alabama, who is a really good football player. He can step in and be a starter if Higgins does not play this year. Then Jamar Chase, he still has 2 years left of his deal. So him asking for a raise right now is kind of like I get it. It's happening more and more, but I don't like that type of business. I don't think that's great business. I think it's showing up, playing football, and that's how you get paid, right? Jamar Chase will be the highest paid football player besides quarterbacks when he does get paid. He just might have to wait another year.
So we're another one we're going to talk about later in the show is Brandon Aiyuk, who wants more like Amon-Ra St. Brown's contract. I forget if it was you or Ray Cotto when we had him on the last set in your all 22 rankings. Actually, at one point in the season, had him as the number one receiver, Brandon Aiyuk, because he blocks well, he runs really good routes and stuff like that. Would you give him that money if you were the 49ers, or what do you think of the 49ers wide receiver situation?
So do I think he's worth the money? Yes, I think he's proven that in our system, right? We grade players differently, right? We use PFF grading to score our players. He is one of the highest scoring players because he does so well play in and play out, even if the ball's not getting into his hands. Saying that, the 49ers are one of the best teams at growing talent and finding playmakers and stars. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall. If I were them, Aiyuk is probably a player I let leave, and I let somebody step in and play like a Ricky Pearsall to take over. They also have Kittle. They have McCaffrey. This is a really deep team. They don't need to be paying big money for a guy that, for a team like them, they could find a replacement for.
The quarterback play, especially in the draft, everybody was considering one guy and then the other guy and then the other guy. They said that this could be a good quarterback class or could be one of the worst quarterback classes we've seen over the years. We all know the Sam Darnold quarterback class. Everybody was saying Sam, and then some people were saying this guy and then that guy. I was the Sam guy. Baker Mayfield was the number one pick. What a surprise. And he had a great season this past year with Tampa, and he got his money as well. When you look at this draft, is there a particular quarterback that stood out from all the rest?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is that guy, and it's an easy answer. It's kind of a cop out, but like he is the best quarterback in this draft. He's a special player. He's just super weird. So like you got to get over the personality stuff to be able to appreciate what he does on the football field, because he does a lot of really good things. He is the most active arm. He has a flick of the wrist throw that's unlike any other player in this draft. It is like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. It is that kind of an arm. It's that good. He also, was on a really bad USC team that didn't really show the most of what he can do. He's going to the Bears, which, I'm a Packer fan. So I always say the Bears stink, right? But they did a lot to put talent around him. So he really doesn't have an excuse not to be successful this year. He is the best quarterback in this draft, but there are a lot of guys with intrigue. Drake May going to the Patriots. He's a good quarterback, bad situation. If people like Daniels, that's great too. But the truth is more of these quarterbacks will fail than will succeed. If we get two of these guys that turn out to be good football players, that's a good class now.
So two unexpected first-round picks. A lot of people thought they'd fall out was Penix and Nix. Penix going number 8, especially shocked everybody. And then Bo Nix to the Broncos at 12. What do you think of those two as prospects and the fits with their new teams?
So I always said that Penix reminded me a lot of Jalen Hurts in that I thought he was going to fall in the draft, but that he would end up being a really high-end starter in the NFL. I think Hurts is lifted up a little bit by his situation, but there is a common theme between those two guys, and it's they have extreme leadership, right? He took this Washington team, which had receiving talent, but it's not an all-star team by any means. He took them to the college championship game. Only a leader can do that, and I think that's why the Falcons decided to take that guy, even if the talent isn't really at that high-end level. this is a leader. That's what they wanted. That's what they've been missing, right? Even if they have Kirk Cousins, I think it makes sense because if you think you could get a guy like Jalen Hurts, we saw what he did to Carson Wentz, right? After a year of being in the building, he replaced him. I think that could be the situation there in Atlanta. And then you said Bo Nix, right? So Bo Nix is this older prospect that failed with his first stint, got another stint at Oregon, and did a lot of really good things. But to me, it's such a scheme that's so unlike what the NFL does that it's really hard to tell if it'll translate. I like the player. I like what his natural talent allows him to do. You also got to like the fit with Sean Payton. The only thing with that I'm thinking is they kind of blew up this Broncos team, and it's not a great situation anymore. And how much weight are we still putting into Sean Payton as a head coach? To me, if anyone's going to fail in this quarterback class, I hate to say it. I hate to wish that on a guy. I really don't. I hope he's super successful, but it's Bo Nix.
We are talking to co-founder of All 22 Premium Fantasy Football Analyst, Chris Lombardi. It's so crazy because I've been watching Grit and Glory. I don't know if anybody's checked it out, the Bo Nix documentary. It's Grit and Glory on YouTube. It is a sensational documentary following him all the way through the NFL draft. And now, as a Bronco, watching him and getting to know him personally, you have to like the kid. You have to like the kid. He has a great personality, comes from a great family. And I think that it's a perfect fit. Him and Sean Payton, I think, could really fit. I don't know why anybody is trying to compare him to Drew Brees. He's not Drew Brees. He doesn't have that style of game. Drew Brees had an unbelievable arm, one of the more accurate quarterbacks. Bo Nix is not that type of guy. He can roll out. He actually has better legs than people think he does. He can move inside and out of the pocket. He can make throws. Kind of just a better version of Zach Wilson, okay? That's what I'm going to say. He's a better version of Zach Wilson. If Sean Payton gets it right, but by the way, he's going to get the coach Zach Wilson. So, hey, that's why he's got Zach over there. So it might work, but I think Bo Nix is actually going to be very successful with the Broncos. I do. I just there's a lot of questions with that team. Like you said, they're are they rebuilding? Are they not? Are they bringing in this player? Are they not? There's no guarantees, and they trade away one of their wide receivers because they thought it would make it, Jerry Jeudy going over there to the Browns. Did it work out for them? Will it work out for them? I don't know. And then you have all the other guys that they have. There's a lot of questions on where they are and what this team is with the whole mix of Sean Payton. And there's no more Russell Wilson in his craziness. But my question to you is, you look at this year's draft, were you surprised that there was no big time defensive player drafted in the top 15, really?
Yeah, I mean, I want to address a couple things you said. So the comparison with Drew Brees, I agree, doesn't make sense in terms of what his arm can do. But the thing that's so underrated, which you touched on a little bit, is his rushing ability. What he does, like Drew Brees, though, is he has this really wide stance when he's dropping back in the pocket, and his feet are super active. It's Baker Mayfield-esque, it's Drew Brees-esque, and that's why that comparison gets made sometimes. So if you actually watch his base when he drops back in the pocket, it is pretty cool. There are some similarities there. But yeah, I think the Zach Wilson comp, the better Zach Wilson is more accurate. So I agree with you there. The defensive player question. So being this year's draft,
big defensive player was Latu, right?
15, yeah.
It was 15. So
15,
top 14.
Latu.
I'm sorry. Top 14 because I said top 15. So top 14. Were you surprised that the best defensive player, which everybody kept saying was Latu off the board, fell 15? He wasn't even in the top 10.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought somebody would take one, right? I understood that the quarterback group was special. Teams were going to be reaching on these quarterbacks, but I think it was the receiver group, right, which is also super special, that kind of stole the show a little bit with Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and then Rome Odunze. Those guys went early too. But there was a couple players like the defensive interior that went to the Seahawks, right? Like that was my number one guy in this class on the defensive side of the ball. He is a really special player. I thought for sure he was going to go top 10, and he didn't. And then the edge rusher, Latu, you mentioned, I'm a little down on him just because there aren't really, like when you watch his film, there's nothing natural about his game that blows you away. And when you see the top defensive interiors go top 5 like they have in past years, they look like Myles Garrett. They don't look like average Joes like Latu kind of does. Latu isn't this physical specimen that blows you away. So I kind of understood it for him. The kid that went from Alabama, I'm just blanking today, Dallas Turner.
Mhm.
Yeah, Dallas Turner more in my mind resembles what that freak edge rusher looks like. And I kind of expected him to also go early, and he didn't. He was the second edge rusher taken. So just a really interesting draft in general. But it kind of goes to show that this is just an offensive league now, right? Like the rules have been fudged in the favor of the offense for so many years that we've gotten to a point where a defensive player is not taken in the top almost 15, to your point. Like that's kind of crazy.
So one of the other picks that was a surprise was Brock Bowers going to the Raiders at 13. A lot of people thought it might be the Colts. People thought that was going to be the Jets that took him at 10.
Thank God.
And it was the Raiders who just drafted Michael Mayer last year, and still with an unknown quarterback situation did that. Do you like the fit for Brock Bowers with that Raiders team with Mayer and with Devontae Adams there?
So do I like the fit? Yes. I think the fit is because he's such a good receiving weapon. It doesn't really matter where he goes. He can be effective in any offense. It didn't make sense. Like you're talking about one of the least valuable positions in football, and they doubled down with a first and second round pick in back-to-back years when they have so many holes on that roster. It's kind of bizarre to me that happened. But Bowers is a special player, and sometimes you just have to go after the elite weapon. I was further down on Bowers than a lot of other people were. I had him more as like a top 20 prospect than a top 10. But hey, if the Raiders think that he can be special, great. And then the other thing too is like, I think they're trying to build an identity, right? With Antonio Pierce as the head coach. They drafted Jackson Powers Johnson, the center. I think they're moving him to guard, but they drafted him in the second round. They also got like Tommy Eichenberg, the linebacker out of Ohio State. They're going for this gritty style football, which I kind of love. Like it's going to be super fun to watch. But those are all guys that have really angry play styles that are just kind of nasty football players. You kind of got to give them credit for at least knowing their identity and chasing that.
As everybody knows, we are talking to co-founder of All 22 Premium Fantasy Football Analyst, Chris Lombardi. It's crazy. Another position that was really popular in the draft was the offensive line. The New York Jets. We've asked a lot of different fantasy guys and draft guys, top-end draft guys. What did you think about Olu going to the New York Jets? I thought he was going 7 to Tennessee. I was very surprised that they went with Latham. I'm not saying Latham isn't good, but these Alabama offensive linemen, they're busts. I'm sorry. I mean, over the last 5 to 6 years, how many good ones have come out? Maybe one. So I probably would have went with Olu. He didn't give up a sack at all in the 3 years he was in college. So what were your thoughts? Were you surprised that Olu fell to the New York Jets at number 10? And obviously he fell to 11 because the Jets traded out of that pick. But were you surprised that the Jets landed Olu? And did you think Olu was the top offensive lineman or the second best offensive lineman in this year's class?
Yeah, so I was very surprised that he fell all the way to the Jets. And the Jets actually, I think, traded back a spot and still got him. Olu is this freak athlete that when you really envision what you want an offensive tackle to look like, it's Olu. Like he is a perfect build for the offensive tackle position. And he really fell to the perfect situation, in my opinion, because he gets to learn behind a Hall of Famer now, right? Like they added Tyron Smith from the Cowboys, and that is a Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame tackle that Olu gets to learn behind. Olu has things to his game that are still a little raw, in my opinion. Yes, he's a great pass blocker. He's honestly a great football player, but he lacks a little bit of play strength, which I know everybody says, but he does. And he also has some things with his drop back. If you check it out, there's a little bit of a hitch in his step where he gallops a little bit. You can see it right there. Things that I don't really love. I think it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. But he is really special. And again, he gets to now learn behind a Hall of Fame left tackle and take his time to learn the NFL game before just being thrown in there. The Jets lose a lot of times with their draft picks because they just throw people into situations when they're not ready. Olu at least gets to sit and learn a little while now. But in terms of is he better than JC Latham or not, I thought he was a better prospect overall, but Latham right now is probably more ready to step in and start. Latham is this massive human being. He's one of the biggest offensive tackles you'll ever see, right? But he also has this play strength where he could basically just grip you and do whatever he wants to you once his hands are on you. Another thing about his play is he has sneaky athleticism that you just don't expect. He can stay with guys coming off the edge with speed. He's strong enough, again, where if he gets his hands on you, you're going to lose. You're just never going to win that fight. You can never bull rush him. So you got to really have great technique to beat a guy like Latham. I think Latham's technique is outstanding, and it's really second only to Joe Alt. And this year, yes, I thought Joe Alt was definitely the best offensive tackle in this draft. He is unbelievable, the form that he has for the position, even if he's not the physical being that I like at tackle, like an Olu is. His nuance and his intelligence at the tackle position is basically better than any I've seen in the 5-6 years I've been scouting.
So you mentioned you're a Packers fan. Jordan Love is in the 5th-year option year. And interesting with the 1 year he broke out last year, but it was his first year as a starter. And with Jared Goff's contract as well with the Lions, a lot of people think it's going to be very similar to that. So what are your thoughts on the Packers paying Jordan Love? What would you give him?
Yeah, it's scary. It's so scary how much these quarterbacks get paid now, because if you pay a guy after just having 1 year of success, that's really hard to do, in my opinion, because it could go belly up very fast, and then you have all this money guaranteed. It's what Deshaun Watson, that situation's turned into, right? Like you're basically stuck with a quarterback for 4 years that should be out of the league at some point, right? Jordan Love, I think he did a tremendous job in his first year as a starter. He looked phenomenal. The fact that he won a playoff game is pretty impressive as well. That team is so young that you might actually be able to get away with paying him and it not ruining your franchise, because they have all of their receivers on rookie contracts. Their offensive linemen are on rookie contracts. Their star defensive players have been paid, and that's the only big paychecks they've handed out. So they do have the flexibility to do it. How much should he get paid? Man, that's so hard to say, but he's going to make $55 million a year. Like, you have to think he's going to get that kind of money. So you're talking, he's going to end up 250. Yeah, I don't see how you give him less than 250. I wouldn't, but I think that's what he ultimately gets.
As everybody knows, we're talking to co-founder, all 22 premium fantasy football analyst, Chris Lombardi. So guys, you got to check him out. Him and his partner are fantastic. All 22 is growing every single year. Their fantasy information is some of the best in the business. And it's so funny because everybody plays fantasy and everybody's looking at the top guys in this year's fantasy football draft. And there's a guy that just left New York who went to the Eagles that Giant fans, Tiki Barber, threw him under the bus and said, we hate you, we don't like you anymore, all this other stuff. Saquon Barkley has a chance to be very special over there with the Eagles. Do you see him as a top 5 running back in this year's fantasy draft? And where do you see him this year? Do you see him at 1,300, 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns in that offense with that offensive line? Or do you see him less?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, starting off, Tiki Barber's Bush for doing what he did. That was some JV stuff. Saquon is the most talented running back in pure skill in the NFL. Does he have the vision that a McCaffrey has? No. Does he have the strength that Derrick Henry has? No. But all in all, he's probably the physical being you'd want to take over anybody else. And I think he still has it. It's really just always been the case with him. Can he stay healthy? And now you're right, behind the Eagles offensive line, a significant upgrade in terms of what he'll be running behind, even without Jason Kelce. 1,300 yards should be easy for him if he stays healthy. It's really just, can he stay healthy? Honestly, I'm going 1,500 yards. He might even have another 700 yards in receiving, right? Like, that's all possible for Saquon if he can just stay healthy.
So you think he's going to be the best running back in this year's class?
Him or McCaffrey? Yeah, definitely.
That's crazy. I mean, could you imagine what the Giants just threw away? I know Fish is not happy. I know he wasn't happy. He says, I'm getting rid of my jersey. And then I know Speedy was not excited about that. Scoops is a Giant fan. I think everybody on this show is a Giant fan but me. Mm-hmm. And they were all like, I'm getting rid of his. They're blaming him. If the Giants offered him the money, he would have stayed there. But the Giants were being cheap. They were just saying, you know what? Running backs shouldn't be getting paid $14-15 million. Okay, then why is Christian McCaffrey making that money? He's making that money, so why can't Saquon Barkley make that money?
Speedy, I understand your frustration, and I'd feel the same way if a star player on my team left and went to the Bears. I totally would. But you guys did the right thing, in my opinion. You're not in a position where he's supposed to be the final touch that takes you to the next level. I think that's what the Eagles saw, and that's why they took that opportunity. But for you guys, you needed to get the number one receiver. You need to find out the solution at quarterback. You need to get the offensive line together. And all of that is more important than just paying a running back. So I think you guys did the right thing, even if it hurts. You just got to kind of take the punches for a couple of years, and hopefully next year's a better year.
Oh, I think Dable will be looking for a new job if it's a bad year this year. I mean, Dable, and how much time do you think Joe Shane has? I mean, seriously, this draft, everybody loved this draft class for the Giants. I was going up and down their draft class. You're a guy that likes to grade drafts. Do you think that the Giants scored high in their draft this year?
I think they did better than most people think. I mean, the receiver they got, Malik Neighbors, in the first round,
I love him.
is legit special, right? He's legit special. And you guys had nothing at receiver. Like my friend Bobby Acker, co-founder of All 22 with me, disagrees with me. He thinks your receiving core was fine. You needed a stud at receiver like no tomorrow. So I think you did a great job there. They also got Tyron Tracy, the running back, who is this really intriguing prospect out of Purdue, who played receiver, can do a lot of things out of the backfield, and is a really interesting prospect. I think you guys did a great job finding players like that are going to be like sneaky good. The other thing about Joe Sheen, he didn't draft Daniel Jones, right? And I think that every GM at least deserves the opportunity to draft their quarterback. Him just falling on the sword because the Giants had Daniel Jones, and the the owner obviously loved Daniel Jones and wanted to pay him. Maybe Eli Manning recommended that. I don't know. But I think that was an owner decision, not a GM decision. I think the GM knew that the franchise tag was tailor-made for a player like Daniel Jones, and they should have paid Saquon then, and they could have franchise tagged Daniel Jones. He would have had the bad year he had, and you would have moved on instantly, and you would have saved yourselves $100 million, right? I think that was an owner decision. One thing that I've learned being in this business for as long as I have, and speaking to people that have that inside ear, there are so many decisions made in the NFL that are not GM-made decisions. They're owner-made decisions. And when you look at the successful franchises versus the ones that struggle, it's most of the time, it's the successful ones are the ones that have the GMs that have the voice that can make decisions. And the ones that aren't are the owners making the decisions for them.
Fish, you're out of your mind.
What are we looking at here? Oh, man.
Yes, the great executive producer that we got all these great graphics with Saquon and
Spanking.
Yeah, that's how a lot of Giant fans are definitely feeling. So I wanted to ask you about the rest of the draft. Like, any first round picks that you did not like for the fit or for the value of their teams, and maybe a third or day 3 pick that you did like and think could be like a Pro Bowl, all pro type player.
Yeah. I mean, I like I had said earlier, I really didn't like the Brock Bowers pick. I thought that was a bad decision for a team that needed to do a lot more. But it was like, I think teams are getting a lot better at drafting with the amount of information they have now, right? They're just making better decisions. Like you looked at what the Steelers did with Fautanu, the tackle. You look at what the Bengals did with Mims. Like these are great fits for those teams. And these are picks in the late teens and 20s, all the way to the Cowboys with Tyler Guyton. Like teams are starting to do a much better job knowing what they need and then finding the player that can fit into the scheme much better. And again, it's because there's so much more information being provided to them. And that's partially due to PFF, who we partner with, giving them that analytical grading. So those are all picks that I really like. I thought it was a great draft. Guys that I liked later on, I liked Cade Stover, the tight end that went to the Texans. I think that could be a sleeper for the Texans. I really liked a couple other guys. The center that from West Virginia that ended up Zach Frazier went to Pittsburgh. Tremendous fit. And there's a thing with Steelers centers. They all go to the Hall of Fame. So definitely if you're playing all 22, that's a guy you want to target because he'll crush it for you. But it really was. It was like this perfect offensive lineman draft where every single offensive lineman gets taken. The Steelers had the best draft, in my opinion. They also got the linebacker Patrick Wilson out of, I think, North Carolina State. Awesome player, really great player. And they got him like in like the 4th or 5th round or something like that. They got so much value. That was my favorite draft. And some of those players are just home run picks.
You know, it's crazy. And every single analyst that we've had on the show after the draft, they all said Pittsburgh won this year's draft. And that's the crazy thing, because all the Jet fans, they looked at the Jets draft and it's like, oh, we did so well. Look what we brought in, the CFL kid from the corner, the corner from the CFL, the rookie who was the defensive player of the year, rookie all player of the year over there at CFL. He's the first CFL player. And then Corley, who I'm interested to see. I didn't know much about him. I watched bits and pieces of him, when I heard that the Jets were looking at him in the second day. What type of player is Corley? Do you think he could be an elite player? They're comparing him to Deebo Samuel. Is he that type of player?
I think he's a little different than Deebo Samuel, but it's funny because my comp for him before the draft was Randall Cobb. And like, he is so similar of a football player to Randall Cobb. Obviously he's 10 years younger, so it's a good fit. And if that type of player is what Aaron Rodgers wants, that's what the Jets went and did, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Saying that, I think that Garrett Wilson is really your only true route runner right now. And I think that's a little bit of a mistake on the Jets' part not to get another guy that can really be a true route runner. It's great to have the deep threat with Mike Williams. It's great to have the route runner in Garrett Wilson. And now you have a guy like Randall Cobb that can do a lot with the ball in his hand and get that yak. So I like it. I like Malachi Corley a lot. I think it was a good pick. I just don't think it's like an instant home run pick like some people are shouting.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So another thing people were complaining about was the Bills letting the Chiefs trade up and draft Xavier Worthy, and then the Bills trade back and draft Keon Coleman. So what are your thoughts of that whole transaction?
Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. It's one of those trades that like you think you could look back in 2-3 years and be like, wow, the Bills just gave the Chiefs a couple more Super Bowl rings. Xavier Worthy, forget the speed. The speed's incredible, but he's so much more than that. Like, you're talking about a guy that's Devonta Smith level good in terms of route running and ability with the ball in his hands. He's also not like, he's small, but he's not a wimp. Like, there's so many plays where you'll see him lower his shoulder and try to run somebody over at like 175 pounds or whatever he is. That if you gave Devonta Smith to the Chiefs, Devonta Smith would have 1,500 yards, right? And I'm not saying Xavier Worthy is going to have that as a rookie, but I think that's the level that we could maybe expect throughout his career in 2-3 years from now. He's so special. And then you look at Keon Coleman, who went to the Bills, and Keon Coleman he's definitely intriguing, but he's not a good route runner. He has no separation ability. He's extremely raw, and they need a number one, like they need Malik Neighbors, who the Giants got. Like, they need that type of receiver, a guy that's going to get open all over the field and can really make plays for the Bills. Instead, they get a guy that probably has the highest bust potential out of any receiver taken in the first 2 rounds, right? But it's also, you go for the upside and you say, is the upside there with Josh Allen that, he could end up having some amazing plays, right? Taking the top off as well. I don't see it. I think Coleman's, his game's a little rough for me.
All right. So before we let you go, I want you to give their fans out there that are playing fantasy football 3 sleepers that you would draft in this year's coming draft for fantasy football.
Rookies or anyone?
Anybody.
Okay. So I'm going to be greedy. And again, I'm going to go with all 22 people. So if you're playing all 22, Will Disley is this bizarre sleeper that exists right now. He is a tight end that, if you don't know him, he played for the Seahawks for years. He had some good numbers with the Seahawks, dealt with a lot of injuries, but he is this true blocking tight end who goes to goes to the Chargers, is this now run heavy offense, and they don't really have a tight end. Will Disley, if he ends up getting legitimate snaps and can stay healthy, he's going to grade so well for the Chargers and in all 22. So that's definitely a sleeper pick that I've been throwing around there. I think it's a lot of fun to talk about. I think in terms of the rookies now, because everybody wants to hear about the rookies, a sleeper pick again in all 22 is the cornerback that got taken to the Eagles, Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean has this insane durability. He can play all over the football field. The Eagles are going to love this kid, right? Because they have a weakness at cornerback, but they filled that with free agency in the rookie draft as well. But Cooper DeJean could be moved as this chess piece and play all over the field. I think if you're looking for a guy for 5 years, that's a really fun one to take a gamble on. Get Cooper DeJean. You're going to love having him. And then I guess one more, quarterback, right? Let me do a quarterback. Think about it for a second.
Don't say JJ McCarthy, please.
No, I'm not going to say
or don't say that either.
No, I'm definitely not.
Really hate you.
And I'm not going to say a rookie either. But I think for fun, let's just have the conversation about what Russell Wilson can be in Pittsburgh, right? We just talked about how they won the draft. They shored up their offensive line. They had a really good draft last year as well. They got Roman Wilson, the receiver out of Michigan, who was in a kind of a similar thing where it's a run first offense. He didn't get the ball a lot, but he was a really effective receiver on that offense. Him and George Pickens, we know that Russell Wilson loves throwing that deep ball to guys like DK Metcalf. George Pickens is a similar guy, right? Russell Wilson might have this bounce back year that everybody wanted him to have with the Broncos. But I think Nathaniel Hackett is a really poor football coach. I'm sorry, Jets fans. I'm sorry to say that.
Thank you.
But I don't think he's a good football coach. Russell Wilson now goes to Pittsburgh with one of the best football coaches in the NFL in Mike Tomlin. I think it's a great fit. And you could get him so cheap, right? It's all about value, right? You could get him so cheap that the value's just there. It could be a home run. And then just for those that don't know, I appreciate you guys shouting it out, but All 22 is premium fantasy football that uses all 53 roster spots, just like an NFL roster. You have offensive linemen on your team. We use analytical grading, personnel packages, things like that. It's super fun. But besides that, we have a mobile app actually coming out very, very soon. So we've been kind of keeping that on the down low. It's not out yet, but if you're a first-time player of All 22, you could sign up, and then in a few months, you'll have the mobile app to play. So we're really excited about it. So if you see bags under my eyes and I sound crazy, it's because I haven't slept, because we're coming out with this mobile app, and it's taken a lot of work, but we're really
I have
excited
bags under
about
my
it.
eyes because I have sleep apnea. Okay. At least sleep. I'm using the CPAP machine. They said it's going to take at least 2 weeks to work. So I look like Darth Vader when I go to sleep. So it doesn't really look good.
Good luck
Doesn't look
for you.
sexy for any girl to look at me like that. So I'm just letting everybody know. Anyways, we really appreciate your time, man. And you're fantastic. You and your partner are fantastic. You do have a great product in All 22 Premium Fantasy. And you know what? We should set up something like we all play. We get all these analysts. We play All 22, and we'll see, even the great ones like Chris and they're the ones who design this fantasy sport, way that you can play fantasy sports. Hey, maybe we could beat them, Speedy. I mean, maybe we could beat their analytics. What do you think?
I would not be against it. Hey, Chris, I do have to mention this. We had Ray Cotto on our draft panel too. He actually said something positive about the Giants too, which was very surprising.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't he a Cowboy fan?
He's a Cowboy fan, yeah.
But guys, I would love to have you come play anytime. I'll set up a league. I'll play against you. And the fun part about All 22, guys, is you guys debate football all the time, right? And you're talking about Jets and Giants fans debating. This is your opportunity to prove you can build a team better than PD can, or the other guys you guys.
I know how to draft, okay? When it comes to fantasy, when it comes to football, I'm a pretty good drafter.
All 22 puts the money where your mouth is. That's why you play it. 53 men.
I'm all ready for it, okay?
Let's do it,
you
guys.
set it up. You set it up. Me, you, Cotto, everybody. We'll get all these different analysts. Well, Speedy, reach out to all the guys. We'll get all the top guys that have been on our show. Reach out to them and see if they'll play. And we'll go against them. We'll see at the end of the year who's on top and who's on the bottom.
We'll have to get our friend John Daigle in too.
John Daigle, he's one of the best. He's one of the best in the business. Bring them all. We'll get like 10, 12 guys. Okay.
Maybe Ray and I will even sponsor a prize for the winner.
All right. Let's do it. It'll be fun. It'll be fun, and we'll see. We beat the guys that built this game. That would be fun. I mean, these guys are analytically, they sit there and they study these guys, so it'll be fun, and we'll have to be a little bit smarter and do our studying before the draft, Speedy. So I think it'll be fun. So let's do it.
I love it, guys.
All right, Chris. So Speedy's going to reach out to you. We'll set something up, and I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. Check out All 22. By the way, they have an app coming out very, very soon. So if you're a fan of fantasy sports, now you have it right at your fingertips, just like ESPN, just like any of those fantasy. Even DraftKings has their own app. Now, All 22 has their own app. So shout out to Chris and Mr. Cotto. And hey, look, their product is as good as anybody's on the market. So we love them. They're fantastic, great personalities, and they know their stuff. So Speedy, keep in touch with them, and let's do it.
Yeah, I was because it's funny because I was always meaning to try it when Chris, I think, was first on the show. The way he described it, always the concept always seemed interesting to me. And I think when we had them on the show, like our drafts were already done, so I wasn't thinking about it at that time. But now that both of them are on right now, like it's right around the time, about a month from now, we'll be setting up fantasy leagues.
This is an interesting story, and we're going to get Fish involved with this story very soon. But Jason Kelce said on New Heights, on the podcast, on Tom Brady, that he outsmarted people during the Deflategate scandal in 2014. He also added on this story that he is he's in favor of the concept of deflating footballs, saying it doesn't matter how much air is in them. He also added that it made absolutely no difference in the AFC Championship game versus the Colts as they won 45-7. So, a very interesting story, okay? And and Travis said some interesting things, and we will get into that in just a few moments. But Deflategate with Tom Brady was such a big story. And Tom Brady, I mean, he broke his phones, he got rid of his phones, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, what a catastrophe!" And then they investigated it, and then Tom Brady was suspended by the NFL because of the whole scandal with Spygate, and it wasn't Tom Brady's fault; it was the Patriots' fault. It was Bill Belichick's fault for cheating the way he did in those years. But because Roger Goodell was very close with Robert Kraft, they got rid of the tapes. And guys, you got to check out The Dynasty. It is fantastic. It's on Apple. If you guys want to see the inside scoop of what happened with the whole Spygate and even Deflategate, it's definitely inside scoop of what happened, even the Aaron Hernandez thing. But, when you hear Jason Kelce come out and say that, and he was for the Deflategate, he obviously stuck behind the whole Tom Brady thing. And Tom Brady makes a joke about it. He was on the Netflix, what do they call that? The roast, or whatever the hell they did over there. And they made fun of it. Obviously, Hart said it. A bunch of comedians brought up the whole Deflategate. Listen, I'll sit here and I'll argue my points about the whole Deflategate. I don't think that Tom Brady should have been suspended for 4 games. I don't. And even if he deflated the ball, the only reason why that came out was because of what they did to Baltimore. And Bill Belichick was the king of finding ways of schemes, even though it wasn't considered illegal. It would be an illegal motion the way they ran through their offensive side of the ball. So when that happened and they beat Baltimore, what did Baltimore do? They reached out to Indianapolis and they complained to Indianapolis, and Indianapolis investigated the whole Deflategate. They followed the ball boy, whatever his name was, and they saw him go to the bathroom with the balls. And why was he in the bathroom? He was deflating the balls. So, I mean, it's interesting when you hear an ex-NFL player, now an all-world center, saying that, because he's the first one to touch the ball at the line of scrimmage. So, and he's telling you that he thinks that it should be allowed. Depending on I think if you're the home team, you should be allowed to do whatever you want with the balls. I think that if you're the home team, that's an advantage you have. You decide how hard the ball should be, depending on the game. But very interesting story. Travis Kelce also added, he took shots at Fox Sports, saying that Greg Olsen they did dirty for Greg Olsen, replacing him with Tom Brady as the lead NFL analyst. I agree with him. I agree with Travis Kelce saying that, because I thought Greg Olsen was fantastic. Even in the Super Bowl, what was it, a year ago? He was great. He really was. And Greg was also interviewing for coaching jobs as well. This offseason, he interviewed for the Carolina Panthers coaching job. He didn't get it. But I would agree with Travis Kelce, because when you look at a guy that has been in this business for the last couple of years and really built a name, and Tom Brady, who's never done it before, I understand he's the GOAT in everybody's eyes. He's the greatest football player to ever play the game. But he doesn't have that background in it. Look at Drew Brees. Look what NBC did to Drew Brees. Right. They signed him and then they fired him in a year because they didn't think he was any good. But because he was Drew Brees, they gave him the contract. Did they have to pay him up full? I guarantee you they paid him full before they got rid of that contract. So the problem is with this story is we don't know what it entailed. What was the deal? How did it work when they decided to give Greg Olsen, or tell Greg Olsen, you're going to have to step down, and we're giving the reins to Tom Brady. So I agree with Travis Kelce on that. Jason also, after announcing his retirement in the offseason, now will join Monday Night Football. I think it's a great move by Jason Kelce. I think Jason Kelce is going to be great. I think he's going to be a great analyst. And I like his New Heights show. I think the fact is that he doesn't need to beat his body up anymore. he has a chance to make a lot of money doing his podcast with the endorsements and all the different things that they're going to get out of it, not only through the endorsements, but radio deals and all that other stuff. And now he has a chance to really put his personality right on television. I think he has a great, knock and knack. That would be the best word. A great knack for television because of the faces that he makes and his personality. He's like a big bear. So I love the fact that Jason Kelce is going to be a part of Monday Night Football. I think it's going to drive his podcast. It's going to drive his product to really take off even further than it is today.
Yeah, you also look at the player personalities really being an impact in not just play-by-play broadcasting and color commentary, but also in general with these pregame shows. That's why somebody like Gronk and JJ Watt are on all these studio analysts as the pregame show and postgame show for Fox. And I think that's what the NFL is kind of transitioning into, because you mentioned Drew Brees. Like, yeah, Drew Brees, I don't know if he was given necessarily a fair chance, but he didn't really have that same kind of flair that somebody like a Gronk does or a Jason Kelce does. Remember how bad Jason Witten was on Monday Night Football as an analyst. Like, he was so bland, and they had to get rid of him after a year. I think the Raiders brought him in. John Gruden brought him in his first year there as a backup tight end because he was like 38 years old. But like, they need that kind of personality, and I think Jason Kelce definitely fits that kind of thing. And Greg Olsen, I thought, definitely fit that kind of thing as well. Something about the tight ends, I think that position really, like Travis Kelce, has great personality. Like, something about that really works with the flair.
I don't like Travis Kelce on the show. I think he's really reaching on some of the things that comes out of his mouth. I think Jason really studies it. Travis Kelce was the one that wanted to start New Heights. Jason Kelce really took it over and really made it his own. And I think he was sensational on the show. I don't know if anybody's checked out New Heights, but if you sit and you listen to him, he tells a lot of great stories. Travis, he falls into the conversation. He's not the lead guy. And I think when Travis Kelce decides to walk away from football, I don't know if he could do television. Maybe personality-wise, he could be the color guy, but he's not going to be like the quarterback. I could see a guy like Jason Kelce becoming that guy, that color guy on Fox Sports, or he could be that color guy on NBC at night on, what do they call Sunday Night Football? I could see Jason Kelce being that guy. I don't see Travis Kelce. And I think that's why Travis Kelce signed an extension, because I don't think he has that in his background when he decides to retire.
As far as the Deflategate thing, at the time I was thinking that Tom Brady ended up being involved in that process. Like, yeah, Jason's right. It did not matter for the score of the game. The Patriots always blew out the Colts. That particular identity, especially when Andrew Luck was there, they always dominated those games. And like, it was obvious they were going to win by double digits. I didn't expect 45-7 in a snowstorm, but nevertheless, it didn't matter in that game. But the process of it at the time, I did think was flawed, because you were even saying like the Ravens were referencing it. There were other teams that were referencing it during the regular season, but it turned out to be nothing. Like, obviously the court case disproved it all, and that kind of thing. I'm not going to say I'm going to encourage it, but like, that kind of thing shouldn't be like taken as heavily as it was.
I think with football, and I'm going to say this again, if you're a home team and you're the home team and you have the opportunity to decide how you want to deflate or inflate the balls, you should be allowed to do it however way you want it. Okay. And if you're the away team, you can't do that. So I think the home team should have the advantage. That's why you're the home team. So that's the only thing I would look at. And I agree with Jason. I think if you look at it, who cares if the ball was deflated? Obviously, Tom Brady had a better game, but I don't think that would have made a difference. Even if the balls were inflated or deflated, I think Tom Brady wins the game no matter what. Right. So it really didn't matter if it was deflated or inflated. But again, the NFL, and obviously Roger Goodell was trying to fix up the problem that he built with the whole Robert Kraft thing, because he destroyed the tapes, or Robert Kraft destroyed the tapes, and they didn't drop the hammer on Robert Kraft after they decided to destroy the tapes. So to me, that was why everybody was so upset with the whole Deflategate situation.
Fish, I do like that graphic, by the way.
Well, I think that Jason Kelce is far more engaging. I agree, Errol, than Travis. I don't really care for Travis as much. It has nothing to do with Taylor Swift or anything like that, who I somehow forgot to put in the graphic for this, because this is more Jason Kelce story. Jason Kelce is the man, and I'm so happy he's not playing for the Eagles anymore. He's one of the best centers of all time. He was just faster than everybody. And I think what we're getting now, and I hope we get more of this, the offensive and defensive linemen, we have them on as guests. They're fun. They're interesting. They're wild and crazy. And that's going to make for good television, better than some ho-hum quarterback going like diagnosing the play like we saw with Drew Brees and some of these other guys that just really didn't take, as we mentioned earlier. I think it's really important that you realize that football is a game where everyone's trying to get every little advantage, even at the high school level. We are always changing signals at the high school level just to make sure teams don't know what we're doing. We have all sorts of dummy calls. You change it at halftime sometimes. You have to do those things. Everyone growing up playing football knows that there's a gamesmanship aspect of it. And a lot of people, and Jason Kelce seems to be included in this, just think it's more gamesmanship, deflategate, and especially Spygate. He backed up Belichick on that. Now, Belichick skates that line, but it is that line of gamesmanship. Some people believe if you're not cheating, you're not trying, or if I said that backwards, I don't even know. But all I know is that Belichick did it his whole career. And Belichick won a lot.
Taking an advantage. It's always about having an advantage against the other team. And Bill Belichick was always the guy that found a way, even though it wasn't a law or it wasn't in the rule book saying that you can't do it. He found a way that it worked for their benefit. So I don't think that's cheating. I think he just found a knack in the rules. The rules. I'm sorry. So that's what I think. ESPN Jeremy Fowler reports that Brandon Aiyuk and his agent wanted to make him as much as St. Brown, which is making $28 million per year as he signed with the Lions this past offseason. Here's the thing with the whole Brandon Aiyuk thing. Brandon Aiyuk, and you heard it from Chris Lombardi, he thinks he's one of the best wide receivers in football. And statistics and PFF or whatever statistics that they use to show what type of player he is, he's as dangerous as anybody on the field. The problem with Brandon Aiyuk is you just gave Deebo Samuel a huge contract. You're paying Christian McCaffrey a lot of money. And what are you going to do with Brock Purdy in a couple of years when he is going to want an extension? I think in 2 years, he's going to be up as a free agent. Remember, he was the 7th round draft pick. How many years does he have left on that rookie contract before he's going to want a big time deal? So they're going to have to make a decision with Brandon Aiyuk. And just like Chris Lombardi said, you bring in Pearsall. Pearsall is a good young wide receiver. Some people say he's not as flamboyant as a Brandon Aiyuk, a guy that can go up there and run the routes that Brandon Aiyuk can, but he's strong and he has the ability to make plays in the open field. So again, Brandon Aiyuk is a trade chip. Now, this year they have a chance to win a Super Bowl. They find talent in all different places. I think it was a good move by them. But again, you're going to have to pay this guy. And I don't think they're going to have the money to pay him. Now, there are other teams out there that could be looking for a wide receiver. The New York Giants were one of those teams before they brought in Malik Neighbors. They still have the money, next year. If they really want to bring in a Brandon Aiyuk, they could. Now, right now, if Brandon Aiyuk has a good year, you obviously franchise him again, and then you move him and you try to get as much as you can. So that's back-to-back years. He's putting up top-end wide receiver numbers. Then you look at Brandon Aiyuk and say, okay, you can consider him as a top 5 elite wide receiver. I don't think he's elite yet because he's only done it one full season as an elite wide receiver. Last year was his best year as a wide receiver. If you look at it, Brandon Aiyuk last year, well, I don't have his numbers up in front of me right now, but in 62 NFL games, he has, where is it? I'm sorry. There it is.
Coming up right now.
All right. So here's the stats. In 16 games, 75 receptions, 1,342 yards, 7 touchdowns, second team All-Pro, snubbed from the Pro Bowl. Obviously, who cares about the Pro Bowl? 4-year NFL career. So, and his career, he has 3,931 yards. If you look at those numbers, is he worth $28 million? No. 4 years and 62 games, he has 3,931 yards. I wouldn't say, though, that would tell me he's an elite top-end wide receiver because there are a lot of wide receivers that get 1,000 yards a season. A lot of wide receivers. As a matter of fact, last year, if I'm not mistaken, over 11 players or 12 players had over 1,000 yards. And to me, Brandon Aiyuk had his best year last year, as well as he should, because it was his final year of his contract. So now he gets franchised. He is going to want that $28 million. Maybe even if this year, if he has another big year where he has 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns, he might want $30 million or $32 million. So to me, he's still making, what did he get? A franchise, $25 million. So he's making $3 million less than he wanted. The same thing as Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley last year signed took the franchise tag, and there was incentives added to it. Saquon couldn't stay healthy, so he didn't get the incentive type of money that he thought he was going to get, which could have been up to 14, 15 million. Saquon wanted an extension. He wanted a long-term deal because he wanted to stay put. He wanted to be comfortable where he was. I think that's what's going to happen with Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk is going to have a good year. And if he has back-to-back years, full extension, plays almost a full season, and is as good as he was last year, he is going to get paid. And I think he gets franchised again next year, and he's going to make a lot of money in the offseason.
It's interesting, the relationship with the 49ers front office and Brandon Aiyuk, because like Chris Lombardi was saying too, like Ricky Pearsall, they drafted him as another type of Deebo Samuel, and that scheme is really oriented around yards after the catch. Now, I was mentioning a couple months ago that trading Brandon Aiyuk, you're going to have two of the same player types, and that might be predictable to other good defenses. And we've seen the 49ers definitely get exposed, especially when Deebo gets hurt, when that kind of thing happens. So it's risky to be able to make that trade for Brandon Aiyuk as well. Now, he's a very talented player. I think, Fish, you were even chatting with me yesterday too. Like, the production level has to go higher for him to get to what St. Brown got. Because St. Brown is one of the most consistently productive wide receivers in the league. And I was telling you that he's probably going to get more like what Devontae Smith got, $25 million a year, maybe a little more, because I think athletically he does a lot more in terms of his overall game. But I think not all fault of his own. The 49ers, I think, held him back from maybe getting the full potential because of the scheme, because the scheme is so good. And I think he's not their favorite type of player like Deebo Samuel is, or McCaffrey, or anything like that, where maybe he would strive in another area to be that number one type guy. But Kyle Shanahan did not use him a lot in the first 2 years of his career. So his production numbers went down. So is another team going to take that chance and say, we're going to give him $28 million so we can see what the full potential is and still get him from the production standpoint of this year?
I'm not sure about him, though. You know, Errol, we talked about this during the Super Bowl. He disappeared in the biggest stage of them all. Are you sure that you want to devote that kind of money to a guy who can be locked up in the Super Bowl? Because we just saw that. And if it was me, I would be considering, maybe it's not Kyle Shanahan in the scheme. I would be considering, maybe he looks good because he has so much other talent around him in those skill positions and on that offensive line. Maybe they just have time to get it to him, and he doesn't get all that much separation. We see him make a lot of contested catches. That catch against the Lions off the other guy's head, he wasn't open. He doesn't seem to play that game. Now, look, you don't have to be that guy. DeAndre Hopkins made a career off of not being open and making contested catches. But are you paying that guy Amon-Ra St. Brown type money, first team All-Pro? He was second team All-Pro. He wasn't as good.
Well, that's why he
was
was
get a little bit less.
All-Pro. That was why he was second team All-Pro. St. Brown had an unbelievable year last year. If St. Brown didn't pull off the year that he had, I think St. Brown had 150 more yards than him. If he had 150 more yards, maybe he beats out St. Brown for that number one spot, an all-team, all-pro player. And if he does, he probably gets that contract. San Francisco would have had to pay him that. But if he has another back-to-back year numbers like he had this past year, he's going to prove that he's an elite wide receiver. Then you're going to have to decide what you're going to do with him. And I think there'll be teams lining up. Higgins, you could say whatever you want about Higgins. Higgins didn't have a good year. So him trying to get $25 or $23 million from the Bengals, you're just not going to get it. You had, 600 yards last year? Yes, they lost Joe Burrow, but there's no excuses. You're an elite wide receiver. You're going to go out there. You're going to get open. You're going to make plays. He didn't. Jamar Chase still had over 1,000 yards last year. Jamar Chase was still an elite wide receiver. Don't give me that crap that, hey, you know what, Joe Burrow wasn't healthy and we had Browning throwing the ball. That's not an excuse. So Brandon Aiyuk had Brock Purdy. Now, I don't think Brock Purdy is as good as everybody thinks he is. But again, he still made Brock Purdy look like he was Tom Brady. So, again, you have to see what these wide receivers are going to do and how they transition and open up the field for the other players that they have. Christian McCaffrey is a beast. Christian McCaffrey makes the game look so much easier and makes the game look much more easy for the other players, Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel. So, I think that he's going to have to wait another year. If Brandon Aiyuk has another good year like that, he's going to get paid a lot of money. He's going to make more than Tyreek Hill. He's going to make more than anybody but Jefferson because somebody's going to give him that money. You do back-to-back years, 1,400 yards. CeeDee Lamb is going to make a killing. That guy is going to make a killing. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The Cowboys better figure out how to sign him now because if they don't do that, they're in a boatload of trouble because That guy could make up to $40 million. Right now, if there's an argument right now that's anybody close to Justin Jefferson, it's CeeDee Lamb. And on a lot of people's boards right now, CeeDee Lamb is the number one wide receiver in fantasy football. Number one. Why? Because the guy plays hurt and he's always on the field. Justin Jefferson was doing that for the 3 years. Last year, he missed practically the whole season, half the season. CeeDee Lamb, he plays hurt. He's on the field, and he still makes the plays, and he still puts up the numbers. So I think if I were the Cowboys, I would do anything I possibly can right now this offseason to seal that deal. Because if you don't, you're going to lose him one way or another because he's not going to want to be there.
Right. And you mentioned like waiting next year to pay him too if you're the 49ers. And I think that's the part of what I was saying with the relationship, how strong it is with this front office. Is Brandon Aiyuk content with all the NFC championships and Super Bowls that he's played in right now to say, all right, I still need to cash out first and maybe my team will get better at this point? Because Aiyuk wasn't in the first Super Bowl with the Niners and Chiefs. That was the year before he was drafted. But is he content with that enough to still play on a $14 million fifth-year option and then say, all right, maybe the 49ers will pay me once they resolve their cap situation, which is what I think they should do, but I'm not sure if they will.
He would be a perfect fit with the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, absolutely.
He would be a perfect Keon Coleman over there on the right. He'll be the number 2 guy or even a number 3 guy. You bring in a Brandon Aiyuk. He would have been an absolute beast over there this year. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't trade him before the season starts. If they think that they can win with Pearsall and obviously a guy like Deebo Samuel, you could win with that type of offense, especially with George Kittle healthy. I don't know if you need Brandon Aiyuk, but they're looking to win a Super Bowl. Last year, they fell short. They can't go into the season this year and fall short again. And again, Kansas City's going to be better. They have Xavier Worthy. I mean, there are other teams that are going to be better. The Jets have Aaron Rodgers. So they're just San Francisco's in the NFC. Now, the NFC is going to be a lot better than they were last year. I'm going to tell you that right now. There are other teams that could stick out. Look at the Chicago Bears. They could be a playoff contender if their quarterback in Caleb Williams turns out to be the player that you heard Chris Lombardi said he is. And then obviously we all know what Jordan Love did last year. Jordan Love, if he plays the way he did with young players that he has, young wide receivers around him, they're going to be second-year players with him, and they're going to have a grasp of the way he likes to throw the ball. They could be dangerous. And we know what the Lions are. I mean, that division, I think Minnesota's the worst team in that division. That's what I think, because I don't trust J.J. McCarthy. But three of those teams could make it to the playoffs in the NFC and could be dangerous. So I think Brandon Aiyuk, and this could be the last year for San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan, because Kyle Shanahan, he's running out of time. He's been there too long, and he still hasn't won a Super Bowl, and he's choked in the Super Bowl, not once, but twice there, and once as an offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. So a lot of questions over there when it comes to Brandon Aiyuk. Ronald Acuna, ladies and gentlemen, is out for the season. Fully torn ACL to his left leg, not his right leg, his left leg, which is horrible. I'm going to tell you this. Ronald Acuna signed that 10-year, $100 million contract. Boy, oh boy, is that a deal for the Atlanta Braves. Because now, you sit here, we were talking about, he was the MVP last year. He was the MVP of the National League. Now, him tearing his other ACL in his left leg, you're coming back from an injury that you're going to be out for at least 12 months, maybe 14 to 15 months. That would worry me. Are you going to pay a player like this when that contract's up in 3 years, $400 or $500 million? The answer would be no, because this kid is now, 24, 25 years old. He's had 2 ACL tears on both legs. Okay. Now you're coming off an injury like that. Last year, the guy can't stay healthy. Back and forth in the lineup. He is an unbelievable talent. He really is. He's one of the best defensive players in the outfield, the center fielders. One of the best I've seen in a very, very long time. Mike Trout would come to my mind as the last talented all-around player, 5'12" player in center field that can hit for power and do all the things that he can do. This injury is terrible. It's terrible for the Braves. The Braves have lost their best pitcher and their best player in 2.5 months? I mean, this is a team that was a contender to win a World Series this year. You lose your 2 best players at 2 very important positions in such a short time. I mean, if I was a Brave fan, I wouldn't think anything of it this year. As a matter of fact, I would look towards the season, see what's going to go at the trade deadline, and maybe move pieces and rebuild some of this farm system that you've lost over the last couple of years because you were a contender.
Yeah, you definitely have to feel bad for somebody like that when he was going to get a $400 million contract probably at the end of this season. If he had another year like this, where, I mean, 2023 was insane, like 40 home runs and over 70 stolen bases. It's the first time we've ever seen it. With the new rules, obviously, it helped out a lot. And I know a lot of the baseball
So
guys.
it was an 8-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah.
I thought it was a 10-year. So it was 8-year, $100 million contract, and he's in his 6th year. So he has 2 years left, not
Right.
3. And how old is he? He's 25. So 25 years old. In 2 years, he's 27.
Right.
I mean, that would worry me if I'm a team. Now, it won't worry the Mets. I mean, the Mets are going to go out there and they're going to open up their pockets. If they're not going to get Soto, or they're not going to get Trout, or they're not going to get any of those players, they're going to have a chance to go after Ronald Acuna, because we all know the Braves, they don't like to pay players top dollar. So one way or another, we've seen Freeman go. They let him go. He goes to the Dodgers and goes with deferred money. I could see Ronald Acuna jetting out of there at the age of 27.
Yeah, the Braves are going to consistently stick to their process. Now, the Freddie Freeman thing was weird because of the whole agent debacle, too. They didn't say, Freddie Freeman didn't say, or he didn't tell Freddie Freeman, the Braves are giving us this contract to match the Dodgers contract. That was a whole different thing. But we've seen it with so many other players that have not done well in other places amidst all that. Soroka, that was a really good pitcher, had a lot of injury issues, was gone a couple of years ago. Dansby Swanson has not been the same since he left the Braves, went to the Cubs. Like, that kind of thing has happened. Now, obviously, Acuna is better than all those players by far, but nevertheless, you wonder on 2 torn ACLs if he's going to ever get back to that form, because a lot of it, what the rules elevated with the bigger bases, with the pitch clock and the pickoff rules, really accelerated even further. And while he still might steal some bases, it's not going to be ever 70 ever again. And it's going to be maybe sometimes 30 in a healthy year, but even so, are you going to trust that either?
You have 2 ACL tears. You're 25 years old, and your game is based on speed.
Right.
Your game is based on speed. And I'm not going to say anything, because if anybody can come back from an injury like this and be at the top of his game, it's Ronald Acuna. He's an athletic beast. Right. But again, the amount of torque he's putting on his knees, okay, at such a young age. I mean, has anybody seen his swing? I mean, he's putting a lot of pressure on his swing. Look at his swing, how he pulls the ball. Right. Look at the back knee. Look at that back knee. And that wasn't even his knee that he hurt, right? It was his left leg. It wasn't his right leg. See that left leg, that right leg, how it bends and torques? He already tore his ACL on that leg. So again, this guy's built on speed. We've seen guys over the years in football, they tear their ACL, they tear their Achilles. They're not the same players. Basketball players, look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was at the top of his game when he tore his Achilles. Within 2 years he retired. So it's just, this is the way sports is. And I'm not betting against him, and I won't bet against him, but this is a terrible injury. And for the Braves, a team that I believe should have won the World Series last year. I'm sorry, they were the best team in baseball last year, all season long. They had Stride, they had Acuna. Now all of a sudden you lose Stride, you lose Acuna. What's next? What's next? They lost their second baseman for practically the whole season last year. They get into a playoff. I think they play Arizona, and Arizona kicks their rear ends.
And you also look at the process that the Braves have had to go through with the other injuries, and they've made it work. Like, the process has still been very good. Obviously, when Acuna got hurt in 2021, they traded for all those outfielders, Rosario and Duvall. And I think for something like that, they can make it work in quantity to stay competitive, but they're not going to win a World Series this year. But for Acuna long-term, you have to factor into not doing what the Angels did with Mike Trout. Because actually, I was looking at it earlier. Mike Trout and Ronald Acuna, for like the amount of games Acuna has played to this point, like, their numbers are not far behind. Like, he's clearly that good, Acuna. And the upside is clearly showing right there. And it's the same thing I talked about last year with the Yankees and Aaron Judge. They can't wear him out by playing him too much in center field, because you're going to accumulate all these injuries.
Well, they're not. That's why they have Jones.
Yeah.
And Jones will be called up in a year, and Jones will be the left fielder or right fielder. Right. They have Dominguez. He's the center fielder. And then they're going to have, if they decide to go with Soto and Soto signs with them, he'll be their permanent left fielder for the next, 15 years. And Giancarlo Stanton is a DH. What does he have? 2-3 years left on his contract.
Right.
The Yankees will probably keep him for another 2 years. His final year of his contract, they move him, and then they'll have Judge, and Judge will be there for the 8 or 9 years that he signed. He'll be the captain, and he'll be a designated hitter for the last 5 years of his career. That's what the Yankees are planning if they can re-sign Soto. But it's so very interesting, because baseball, you put a lot of torque on your body, 162 162 games in a year. You're playing for what? 6 months, 162 games. That's a lot of torque on your body. And this is why I've really brought up the whole steroid thing. And this is why a lot of athletes, a lot of ex-baseball players came out and said that steroids should be allowed. HGH should be allowed out. You're going to tell me this. If Acuna was taking HGH and he was getting it put in his knees, do you think he tears his ACL? The answer is no. He would not have teared his ACL. These guys would still be on the field and they'd still be playing. And that's the thing. If you're going to pay all that money to go to ball games, you're paying $300-$400 for a ticket for you and your son to go, and then you got to pay for food, and then you got to pay for parking. At the end of the day, you're spending $1,300. I want to see my best players. I want to see my favorite players, but you're not going to get a chance to see Ronald Acuna because he's out for the season tearing his ACL. That's a horrible, horrible loss for the Braves. Horrible loss for baseball, by the way. And it's just sad. It really is, because for years, we say the Braves are so changed. Everybody keeps talking about the Mets. Look at the Braves. The Braves have had great pitching. They've had great lineups. They've had great players. They've had great farm systems. They could never get over the hump. They've won how many World Series in the last 20 years? Two World Series in 20 years with all those great teams and all those great. They had Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz. They had all these pitchers. I mean, you could go Brandon Nagel. They had Denny Nagel. They had their rotation was as good as any rotation I've ever seen in baseball history. 3 out of the 4 starters on that rotation are Hall of Famers. 2 of them won 300. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they could only win. That team only won 1 World Series, and they went to like 3 of them. They lost 2 of them against the Yankees. And then this one, they've won 1 World Series in 5 years with the talent that they have. Some of the best that was the best farm system in baseball for like 6 years. So I don't know, man. I feel, and the Braves farm system right now is ranked, if I'm not mistaken, out of the top 10. So their farm system went from number 1 in baseball for 5 years to out of the top 10. I'll go look. What are your thoughts, Fish? What are your thoughts to that whole story?
I've played a lot of fantasy baseball, but if I'm watching a game that's not the Yankees, I just want to see great players, and I remember watching Buster Posey when he came up, like the types of at-bats that guy had, Mike Trout when he came up, and Acuna is the same. He's one of these generational talents. And it just really seems like, we may have seen the best of him now. You're not going to be that same guy that you were before the injuries. Look, he could still be a great player, but the numbers he put up last season were just verging on insane. 40 home runs, 73 stolen bases, 337 batting average, get over 1,000 OPS. I mean, that's out of control. He went like by far the most money that we've ever had anyone go in our fantasy auction draft. And of course, that's how you knew it was the jinx. He wasn't going to make it through. And Spencer Strider didn't even make it a week into the season. He was the Cy Young favorite heading into the season for the NL by like a decent margin. He's got the best strikeout numbers out of everybody. Well, guess what? They don't have either one of these guys. And the Philadelphia Phillies are dominating at a pace that we haven't seen before.
The Atlanta Braves farm system is ranked this year 26th in baseball.
Wow.
26th in baseball. Their best prospect right now is AJ Smith Shoiver. That's their number 1 prospect. He's if I'm not mistaken, a right-handed pitcher.
Yeah, he came up a couple times as a reliever last year.
And Hurston Waldrop. Those are their 2. Shoiver is ranked 69. And Waldrop is ranked number 90. And believe it or not, the Braves for 5 years, not 2 years ago, but for 5 years from there, were the number 1 farm system in baseball. It wasn't even close. Them, Houston, and I think it
was the White Sox.
The White Sox and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers. But the Dodgers are still in the top 10. It's crazy how good their team. Los Angeles is 8th. Here, right now, I'll go to the top 10. The top 10 farm systems in baseball as of today. Baltimore 1, the Chicago Cubs 2, Milwaukee 3, San Diego 4, the Tigers 5, Tampa Bay Rays 6, the Texas Rangers 7, the Dodgers 8th, Pittsburgh 9th, and Cincinnati 10th. And then obviously the Yankees are the 11th. They're the 11th best farm system in baseball with Jason Dominguez, who's not there, Spencer Jones, Roderick Arias, and Chase Hampton, who the Yankees really love. The pitcher that they have, the right-handed pitcher, which they said was untradeable. They were not trading him. So obviously Spencer Jones, some people think could be very special. And we all know what the alien or whatever, the Martian they call him. Jason Dominguez, they really didn't have much of a major league season when he did come up. But when he did, he killed the Houston Astros, absolutely destroyed the Houston Astros. So the only one that actually hit against them in the 2 games that the Yankees played against them. So.
Or they had a time machine to bring him back to 2019.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing Jason Dominguez. He's right now, getting ready. He's doing what do they call that? His rehab session for 2 weeks, and when he comes back, probably in the next 3-4 weeks, he's not going to start. He's not going to be starting a center fielder, but give it about a month, and he'll be the starting center fielder for the New York Yankees because he's a 5-tool player. He's a switch hitter. Where do you find a switch hitter that can hit for power on both sides of the ball? So, not many. So that's why I think Dominguez is special. Mickey Mantle was the last, and I'm not saying he's Mickey Mantle. No, I'm going to say that right now. I'm not saying that, but Mickey Mantle at his size. Now, Jason Dominguez is 5'10", and he's built like an ox. The last player that people compare, not his swing, but his style of game, his 5-tool ability is Mickey Mantle, a switch hitter that can hit for power on both sides of the ball. And he's a defensive player. He's a really good defensive player, and he's fast, lightning fast, and very powerful on both sides. So, hey, if he's anywhere close to Mickey Mantle, the Yankees have him, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge. They still have Giancarlo there. And then they have this guy, Spencer Jones, who people think is another type of hybrid of Aaron Judge. I mean, could you imagine that?
I think you gotta also talk about the Yankees pitching if you're going to talk about it. Their starters are lights out. Stroman's arguably been the worst of the 5, and he's been good. Clark Schmidt is having this campaign where he was an afterthought forever, and he may even make an all-star game. How good he's pitching right now. So, and that's without Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole's going to be back in a month or so,
less,
maybe 2.
They're saying they're saying a couple of weeks. I mean, he's already getting ready. He's throwing the ball.
Who do you even put in the pen? Like, who goes to the pen? Do you do a 6-man rotation till the All-Star break?
6-man rotation. They're going to do that. Yes,
probably, right?
Yes. And here's another thing, and I know. And by the way, Keith says steroid prevents torn ACLs. Yes, they do. Now, not steroids, Keith. HGH, human growth hormones. Now, if these guys want to heal quicker, I just get a shot of HGH. It will heal the muscle. Now, they won't be at 100%, but it will definitely heal it. He could get back, actually play with a torn ACL if he takes HGH. If you're taking HGH, human growth hormones, absolutely, it would make that muscle stronger. So you're putting a lot of torque on that muscle every single day. If you're playing a double header and you're playing back-to-back games, that's a lot of torque on your knees. That's a lot of torque on your different ligaments. Yeah. So if you're taking HGH and you're taking human growth hormones, absolutely could keep you away from going to the IL. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Keith says the Yankees are the best pitching in baseball, which they do right now.
They do.
I mean, it worked for Andy Pettit, the HGH on his elbow. He says that he did it so he could still play baseball.
100%.
He pitched another 5+ years, I believe, after he got, in trouble for it. He admitted it. He said he was sorry. But honestly, the man made probably another $100 million because he took it. Well, who's sorry? Like, why would you be sorry? He wanted to keep playing the game that he loved, and just that medicine wasn't approved so that he can survive and play. There was nothing else that was going to make
Wrong, Keith. He says it heals quicker, but it doesn't prevent. If you're taking HGH, listen, Keith, I have friends that do it. Okay, Keith, I'm around. I work out. I work out with a lot of guys that are doing steroids. I don't do it. I watch these guys, what they're doing. Yes, if you're taking human growth hormones, you're not going to tear that muscle. if you're shooting human growth hormones in your shoulders right now, if you have if you know that it runs in your family, okay, you know that torn rotator cuffs it runs in your family, you're probably going to shoot yourself with human growth hormones in your rotator cuffs. You're going to do that. Why? Because it's going to keep the muscle strong, and it's going to keep you from tearing that muscle. And it will, if you do anything, you pull anything, you know, in any way where you're hurting the muscle, where if you're going back at it the next day, it's going to recover quicker, and it's not going to hurt as much the next day. So yeah, I'm going, if I'm doing human growth, I'm a professional athlete and I'm playing 162 games and I know my body's at risk every single day to tear something, I want to make sure that the team that's paying me $40-50 million a year, they're going to get the bang for the buck. And I want to play my schoolyard game. I want to be out on the field, and I want to break records, and I want to go down as one of the greatest guys at my position. So yeah, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I'm sorry, the only sports that I believe human growth hormones and steroids should not be used is boxing and mixed martial arts, because you can kill somebody. Football players, they beat the hell out of each other anyway. So, I mean, one way or another, they're running into you. And hockey players too. You know, I just think that, you know, those full contact sports like that, I'm not talking football's full contact, and so is hockey, but you know what I mean.
But you have padding, like you have padding in boxing.
You do have padding in boxing.
Oh,
you're wearing gloves.
Well,
You know,
besides
that's
gloves, it's not on your body though. Like,
no, but you again, that's why you train, and that's why you get yourself into great shape. I mean, but I'm just saying, boxing is a young man's sport. Okay, your best years of boxing are going to be, and I'm going to tell you this: when you break through and you win your first title. So usually you get your first title shot in boxing at the age of 23, 24. Okay. If you're a top end boxer, 23, 24, you're going to get your first title shot. I mean, unless you're Mike Tyson, who's 19 years old and he's just a wrecking machine, but there are not many guys like that. Usually it takes a couple of years to break through. You got to get up into the rankings. Boxing is different. Mixed martial arts, it depends on what you're going to bring in. The style make fights. And if Dana White thinks that your style is going to sell to the public, he'll put you in a ring against a champion, and you can get lucky. But usually you got to go up into the pipelines too. You got to move up in the rankings. So boxing and mixed martial arts are kind of the same from all the other sports, but you're putting players and fighters at risk when you're taking steroids, because yes, you're going to be more stronger. Yes, it does. Certain steroids give you more stamina. Certain steroids help you lose weight. Why do you think mixed martial arts fighters get caught with steroids? Because it's hard for them to dip. Usually, okay, it's all about weight classes. You want to dip as much weight as you possibly can. Why? Because you'd be stronger at that weight. So let's say I'm 230 right now. If I were to fight, I'm going to fight at 205. Why at 205? Because I'd be a strong 205 fighter. If I fight in a heavyweight division, these guys are benching 400 pounds. They're bigger than me. They're stronger than me. It's going to be very, very hard. You're going to fight the guys that are maybe even dip to 185. If I could dip to 185, which I probably could, starve myself, I'd probably do that. But then you lose a lot of strength. So mixed martial arts, the best way to do that, and what a lot of fighters used to do over the years, is there's certain steroids that you can take where you can drop like 30 pounds in a week and then get on a scale and weigh in. And it's, some of these drugs are very hard to catch. So, and that's why they do all these different tests now for athletes, and they get caught. So it's illegal. What is he saying over here? HGH?
HGH causes blood clots, heart disease, and cuts down life expectancy. HGH is very bad for the body long term.
No question.
I don't care.
I think sometimes, like average people, like you see it like, and it seems like, oh, you're going to abuse it, you're going to hurt yourself. These guys are multimillionaires. They know how to take it. They can hire people to train with their body to cycle correctly. You just look at the sleep science, look at the other stuff that they have. There's probably chemicals that they have that make HGH look like that people have been using it for 10 years when the rest of, where some people still are, because it works. But they're gonna, there's always, they check for something and the next thing will come out.
If you take Tylenol too much, it can kill you. Okay, I mean, anything that you take that your body can't or is not meant for your body to handle can kill you. I mean, if you ate too much oatmeal, can it kill you? Absolutely, it can kill you. I mean, I don't know how, but I've never heard that somebody died from too much access of oatmeal. But with this world, you never know. I mean, most things can kill you when you do too much of it. But if you do it in increments and you build, listen, you don't think The Rock is doing steroids? Come on, guys. You're going to tell me that guy is natural? That guy is not natural. That guy's a human chemical. That's what he is. He walks around. That guy's head is huge. I mean, look at his arms. If you stand next to Dwayne Johnson, you're going to tell me that guy is not humanly big? I mean, that guy is a monster. That's not normal. He doesn't walk like that for real. So
Don't share a Wu-Tang pie with The Rock.
What is he saying? BS steroids are very addicting. Any steroid is addictive. Any drug is addictive. Heroin's addictive. Cocaine's addictive. Smoking weed, even though they say it's not an addictive, it's what do they say? The
nature's plant or whatever.
No, they say that it's like the startup drug to get you into all the other drugs.
Okay.
So, which I don't. First of all, I don't believe. I think that's ridiculous. But
yeah, Kenny would have been smoking those by now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. To me, and I eat oatmeal every day. LOL, no BS. Of course, The Rock takes steroids. Okay, yeah, but a lot of people don't. I have friends that tell me there's no way that guy is natural. That guy is not natural. Okay, so and The Rock is what 50, 55 years old.
Not even. I think he's only 50, 51. He's a little bit younger. He came in to wrestling.
52. He's 52.
He's 52. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's 52.
I'm sorry. I'm a school teacher, right? And I've always been against steroids just for one reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's because kids look up to the college and NFL players that take them, and they don't know how to cycle, and they don't know how to take these things, yet they're going to try to. And you end up seeing some really, crummy stuff happen to kids, and, cost them a season. If it gets out, that's the least of the worries, because they're not going to do it right. And that's the type of thing that I worry about. But if you're a professional athlete and you can earn millions of dollars by risking your health, aren't you risking your health every time you strap on football pads?
100%.
Aren't you risking your health? Some guys get hurt all the time, doing anything. We just saw Acuna. He got hurt. You know how he got hurt? He was just leading off second base, doing nothing. No one touched him.
That's what usually happens in sports now. It's non-contact. It's the turf. It's the field. It's all the pressure that you're putting in your knees. These guys are. I mean, Ronald Acuna probably started to play baseball at the age of 5. I mean, the guy's been running without shoes wherever he's from. I mean, over there in Puerto Rico, I've heard so many different baseball players say that they didn't own a pair of cleats until the age of 15. These guys were playing with their bare feet, running from base to base, calluses and all that other stuff. I've heard Daddy Yankee, who was a semi-pro baseball player, come out and say that he never even owned a pair of sneakers until he became a hip-hop artist or whatever the hell he was, a reggaeton artist. I mean, the guy didn't have the money. His family didn't have the money to even put food on the table. So, again, steroids is an expensive hobby, okay? And I'm just telling you that. And athletes, they make a lot of money. If it keeps them on the field, I'm not going to be one to tell you if you're a kid, you should be doing steroids. But I'm going to say this. If you're a professional athlete and it can keep you on the field and it can get you, it's going to cause problems for you in the future. That's your problem. You got one hand scratches the other. You're going to make millions and millions of dollars, but you're going to have to deal with the health problems you're going to deal with after that. So again, look, do you think The Rock is a superstar without doing steroids? Come on, guys.
He says steroids cause a lot more damage than good.
No, I think steroids is the worst drug that you could do for your body. It's worse. Heroin, everybody, it's a killer. And people are dying from heroin every single day, especially around here. I mean, everybody's on heroin. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, everywhere you look, somebody's, going into these convulsions. Okay. It happens. I mean, it's bad. It's a bad pandemic. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Steroids, it kills your spleen. It kills your kidneys. It kills everything, every organ in your body. Eventually, it gets to your heart and it kills your heart, and your brain and everything like that. So it shrinks everything, including your testicles. So, Speedy, you don't know anything about that. But anyways, and even if you did, you probably can't see it. But anyways, before we go, I wanted to get into the story. This is a big story. USA Today reports that the controversial longtime umpire Angel Hernandez has announced his retirement from baseball. And here's the thing. Everybody that knows anything about baseball hates Angel Hernandez. You don't even have to play professional baseball and probably have a story that you could pick out on why Angel Hernandez is probably the worst umpire you've ever seen. But I'm going to tell you this. You see all these old guys starting to retire. And baseball is bringing all these young people in, and they're making even more mistakes than the older guys. Their strike zones are all over the place. I hate watching baseball and trying to figure out what's a strike and what's a ball. And then you watch, what do they call that? The framework that these catchers have. They're catching the ball outside and they're bringing the ball. How do you not see the glove move from one place to another?
They're trying to do that now. It's like sort of an art form.
I mean, how do you not see that? It's completely outside and they're bringing their gloves in and you could see it and you're calling it a strike. I mean, it's ridiculous. And again, Rob Manfred, I don't agree with this robotic umpires that he is going to bring in 2026. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's going to ruin the game. But again, baseball's trying to stay on top. They're trying to figure out how they can build a product and build on top of that. And I think Rob Manfred has tried to figure out all these different ways of growing the sport and adding new rules that's going to drive some of these youngsters to like baseball more than they're going to like football or hockey. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Hockey is more fun to watch live than any other sport. I don't care what anybody says it is. But baseball is always going to be bigger because baseball is American pastime, and baseball holds more fans in the stadium than hockey. Hockey, I think the most in the NHL stadium, the biggest stadium, I think, holds 15,000 people. 16,000 people. In football, there's 80,000. In baseball, there's 55, 60,000. It's more of a draw. And the problem right now with baseball is these new rules that they're bringing in and they're implicating into the game is ruining the game. It's ruining the game. And I love the fact that the shifting is gone, but has it helped the game? I thought it was going to open up the game a little bit more offensively. It's made it worse. Last year, the offense was down. This year, the offense is it's like seesawing right now. And pitching has gotten worse. It's gotten worse. Go look at the statistics right now of the pitchers. Who's leading baseball right now in ERA? Who's leading baseball right now in ERA? I bet you it's like a 2.36 or something like that right now, the ERA. It's not at 1 something. It's not Jacob DeGrom-esque or Matt.
Actually, you're gonna laugh at this. It's Seth Lugo.
Oh,
with a 1.74. No, he's 8-1 with a 1.74 for Kansas City.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Who's the next guy? Who's the next guy?
Probably Logan.
Ranger Suarez is also 9-1 with a 1.75.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Guys really low, but the biggest name that's surprising on this list, number 5, is Chris Sale, 8-1 with a 2.12 for this Atlanta Braves team.
I'm not surprised with Chris Sale. I'm not. I mean, he leaves Boston. He goes, and it was 2 years that he had that arm problem. But I didn't even know that these guys. First of all, Seth Lugo. I mean, I don't think that's going to sit. I think at the end of the season, you're going to see. And right now, these ERAs are like they're low, but I didn't even think they were this low. Pitching has been. I've been reading that pitching's been bad this year. I mean, all around pitching, team pitching has been horrible, and the offense hasn't been that good either in baseball. As a matter of fact, the Yankees have 3 players. They have 3. Their 3 top dogs have more home runs than 4 major league teams,
including the Rays, which is surprising.
Major league teams. 3 players have Giancarlo Stanton, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge have more home runs than 3 or 4 major league baseball teams. That's horrible. That's horrible. And I think baseball is trying to sell a product, and they juice the balls here and there, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they're trying to make the game a little bit more better. And to me, it's the dominance of the game has just fallen. I mean, look at the Houston Astros. Look at what happened to them. They're playing better baseball now. They are. They're starting to hit. They're starting to play better baseball. But Houston, for what, a month and a half, has been one of the worst teams in baseball with the talent that they have over there. So it's not about the talent that you have. It's just, depending on the weather, depending on this and depending on that. And baseball's just trying to find ways to make the game more fun to watch offensively, scoring, speeding up the game. I don't think speeding up the game has helped the game. No, I don't think it's helped the game at all. As a matter of fact, these rules in in extra innings where the man leading on second base, that's horrible. That's giving the team, all you got to do is hit a single and you're going to win the game. The home team, all he's got to do is hit a single. And the away team gets a shot. Yeah, the away team gets a shot. But I mean, if you look at the records right now, who's at advantage right now for the team that is starting off at second base? It's the away team. There are more. If you look at the records over the last 2 years, the away team has a better record than the home team does when it comes to starting, going into extra innings and having that guy start at second base. It's crazy. And it's not like a 49-51 kind of statistic. It's like a 10 or 12% statistic. It's high. So to me, I think baseball is trying to find, spin the wheel, make the deal. It's not helping the game. And the Angel Hernandez thing, thank God he's gone. Okay. I'm happy that he's retiring. He's made his money. He's done very well as an umpire in baseball. I would love to get him on the show because he's one of the most hated guys in professional baseball. And he's not even a baseball player. But the fact is, statistics show that he has been the worst umpire in Major League history. Major League history. Statistics would show you that he was. And if you're a baseball fan, I don't know why, guys like Rob Manfred or guys like, over the years, Tony La Russa are trying to find ways to make the game stand out from all the rest. The game always stood out. It always stood out. If they didn't really dig into what was going on over the 90s when the strike happened and steroids came out, I understand politics got involved with it, but if it wasn't for Jose Canseco, and that's why I didn't want to go and interview Jose Canseco at the Woodbridge Brewery, because I think he hurt the game of baseball, and he did it for money. He did it because he was going broke, and he needed to write a story, so he threw everybody under the bus. But baseball wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for those guys. I think it's horrible. I think baseball, and honestly, out of all the sports, and I'm just being honest, the four major sports, baseball is the least I want to go and watch live. It is. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to. And by the way, it never packs out. Even Yankee Stadium. Has anybody been to Yankee Stadium? The Yankee games don't pack out. They're open seats. They say it's a sold-out crowd. It's never sold out unless it's a playoff game. It's never sold out, or it's a big team. It's like the Mets and the Yankees. Not even Boston and the Yankees sell out Yankee Stadium anymore. I went to a Yankee game a year ago against Boston. I was sitting in the bleachers. There were open seats all over the field to watch the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. All over the field. I remember in the old Yankee Stadium, it would sell out. There was no way you would find seats for years in Yankee Stadium. It was impossible when they played Boston and the Mets and all those teams in the East, the American League East, Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles in the 80s, the mid 80s. When I was a kid, when I got a chance to go and watch baseball at the end of the 80s, 90s, the Orioles were still fairly good. It was when the mid 90s started, it was when everything started falling apart for them. So, I mean, it's just terrible. It's terrible how baseball and Rob Manfred has ruined the game. Bud Selig has ruined the game. Why isn't George Steinbrenner in the Hall of Fame? Makes no sense. I don't understand it. But again, Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. He did steroids and won. And Shohei Ohtani is going to have a first class, 100% vote going into the Hall of Fame, and this guy freaking cheated, and he was betting on baseball himself. And baseball's just throwing it or brushing it on the rug because he's their superstar. He's the face. He's the guinea pig. So I just think it's absolutely horrendous. I think the game is just, they need to get somebody in position that deserves to take baseball to that next level. I thought Theo Epstein would have been perfect. Theo Epstein would have been the perfect commissioner to take over baseball. Now he's partial owner of the Boston Red Sox, and he's doing all that other stuff with the Red Sox. Baseball's not going to let him take over. There's no way. It's like it doesn't work.
Yeah,
so
conflict of interest at that point. And I think
unless he sells his rights.
Yeah, right. And I think that's where baseball's is. They're kind of stuck in a lot of
why not? I mean, Roger Goodell makes $54 million. If I'm Theo Epstein, I say, okay, you know what? I'll take the commission. I'll sell my team rights. I'll make a couple $100 million off it. You know what? I want $55 million a year. Pay me $55 million a year. That's a bargain for me. I'll part ways with the Boston Red Sox.
And it's interesting because you're right. Baseball's always had this kind of conflict of interest, power struggle type thing with Rob Manfred and with Bud Selig as commissioners, with these owners that are very rigid as it is with a lot of these bigger market teams. And they're still having those kinds of issues where they're having competitive balance issues, having the issues with the rule changes. And now you see with these older umpires retiring, it's just not just him. We saw Joe West. We saw a bunch of others in the last 5 years alone, just because of the changes of the game. And like Fish, you were saying with these surprise ERA leaders in baseball, Seth Lugo, who had a nice year last year too, but is really good this year. Ranger Suarez, kind of same kind of player, kind of a fringe hybrid reliever that he sometimes was bad for the Phillies, sometimes good. 1.96 ERA. The metrics, the data matters to everything. And that's why these younger umpires are much more evolved to adjusting it. Angel Hernandez was below 70% of calls like 3 different times this year. And I do feel bad for him. Like he had a back injury. He had these other issues.
You feel bad for him?
I feel bad for like him as a person. I'm not talking about what he did as an umpire. Like he had LASIK surgery.
He ruined the game.
No. I'm not saying, I'm not justifying his umpire. I'm just saying like, hopefully everything is good with his personal life, more or less.
I want to hear from Fish, and I want to hear from our friend Scoops on his thoughts of the whole baseball situation and where baseball is heading, because I don't like where baseball is heading. I really don't. And I think that there's a lot that baseball needs to do moving forward after, Rob Manfred decides to man out of the position as the commissioner, because the guy's a complete moron. And I don't like these implicated new rules. It's affected the game and the growth of the game. So you Fish, you first, and then I'd like to hear it from another guy, because my opinion varies. I mean, me and Speedy kind of agree to this. I think baseball needs to find a better commissioner and find somebody that actually knows the game and understands the game a little bit better. Rob Manfred was a hand-me-down guy from Bud Selig. He's like, you know what? Keep Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame, and you're gonna get an opportunity to be the commissioner of the game, and that's what he did. So,
I really do think he already named the guy who's going to replace him, and I know you said he's got an ownership stake right now with the Red Sox. But it's got to be Theo Epstein. He's the guy that's instituted all these things in the minor leagues when he was working for the league. Look, Bud Selig was a part owner of Milwaukee when he became the commissioner, I believe, as well. Look, he could sell his stake. He can always buy back into another place after he's commissioner. He's the guy that is trying to be progressive and change the league. He's the one behind the guy on second base. Maybe that we don't all like that. I like that the extra inning games have more action. There's more run scoring in the regular season. In the postseason, I don't know if I want to see that. But as far as regular season games, sure, end it. Have more offense to end it. I get it. It makes sense. It's what people want to see. But we're not seeing more offense. We're not seeing that. I just brought up the stats, and I wanted to share them with you guys. There's a stat that I always look at to try to see what's going on offensively in the year, and it's batting average on balls in play. BABIP. And it's down this year. It's in the 280s, which it never is. It's usually in the 290s to 300. It was 5 points higher last year, which means that at this point in time, which means that, hitting is down. So what's causing that? And what's causing some of these ERA leaders? Maybe it's a blip. Maybe there's regression. I don't know. But I know they still have a lot of work to do to try to make this game more enticing to younger people. Now, you could say that the game is fine as is, and it's the game that we grew up watching and playing, but if they're not drawing ratings, who cares? They need to find a way to survive against football and
Did
basketball.
you see the ratings last year in the World Series? They were not good.
Not good.
They were not good. And I listen, I love the fact that the Texas Rangers won the World Series last year and beat off the bad news, a team that I can't stand, the Houston Astros. Okay. We all, and it was, well, I'm sorry. That was the ALCS. I love that. I was the Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks.
I loved watching the Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers play against one another because the Diamondbacks were a Cinderella team. I thought the Texas Rangers all season long were the best team in their division. They kind of fell off, but there was something about them that with the moves that they made at the trade deadline that really stood out. It really stood out. The pitching that they added, especially in the offseason, they brought in Jordan Montgomery that really changed everything for them at the trade deadline. So, but I think that when you look at baseball now, there are not many dominant teams. If you look at baseball at the leading board right now in the American League, who's going to challenge the Yankees right now besides Baltimore? Who's really going to challenge the Yankees? Astros? The Astros don't stand a chance against the Yankees right now. They don't stand a chance. I know it's early, but even if the Astros win their division, the Texas Rangers, or you think the Yankees are afraid of the Texas Rangers? You think the Rangers are going to be able to keep up with them in a 7 game? The way the Yankees are hitting the ball and they're pitching the ball, it's almost. I told you guys. I told this to Josh, and I told this to Eric. Speedy, you know what I said when Eric told me that the Yankees are going to be the first wild card team. I said the Yankees are going to win the division, and it's not even. I said the Yankees are going to win the division by 5 to 6 games. They're that much better than the Baltimore Orioles. And the Baltimore Orioles, they're a wild card team, but they're going to have that slump this year. They're going to have that sophomore slump. They're not going to be as dominant as they were last year. And now you're seeing it right now. I know it's early, but we're 50 games in, and the Yankees are a plus 92 differential. Plus 92. Okay, the closest team to that right now is the Philadelphia Phillies that are plus 89. Okay. Philadelphia, okay, has a better record than the Yankees. And the Yankees have a differential that's 3 points higher than them. That says a lot about what the Yankees are doing right now, offensively to defensively. I think they're the second best defensive team in baseball right now. I mean, and everybody said Aaron Boone doesn't know how to manage. Boy, oh boy, they're eating their words. And Juan Soto's changed everything for the Yankees. There's no question that he has. He's given them life in that lineup. But again, you look at the way that lineup is set up. I mean, you're in murderer's row. It doesn't matter where you're pitching. You're going to have to pitch to one of these guys, and they have so much power. I mean, Gleyber Torres is not hitting right now. Could you imagine when that guy gets hot? It's DJ LeMahieu's coming back. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Scoops, your thoughts to the way baseball is and actually where baseball is going. Angel Hernandez obviously retiring. I mean, that wasn't the story. It's just the way where baseball is going with these new rules and the robotic, umpires being implicated into the game.
Well, there's things that need to be in place that, like you said, Fish, it needs to be more enticing. It needs to be more like to have viewerships go up that want people to actually watch baseball more than you have in the last few years. Like the defer money is, of course, an issue, and that's kind of annoying. You have the umpires that are annoying. Hernandez won't be missed, but you also have the rules with the pitch clock and all the extra inning rules and whatnot with the doubleheader games. But my thing is that I remember you actually, Errol, a while ago when we were talking about, about what makes a game, what can make a game more fun for baseball and everything. You were like pitching an idea of like a shootout, like basically like a little bit of a shootout. Like, what is it that people like seeing in baseball? They like seeing the home runs. They like seeing the ball. You like seeing that connection with the ball. That's the more fun of that's the fun of the game, And of course, I think it does come back also to the GM. I think they need a GM that more understands that this is what people actually want to see, and at least not be afraid to like try new things like this, and not be afraid to like maybe they do something like this for, I don't know, like a round in the playoffs, like the first round of the playoffs, or I feel like experimenting, not too much experimenting, not doing extra things, like not doing too much weird things, but I feel like experimenting into things that people want to actually see. Like I said, like home runs are fun. Everybody likes seeing home runs. Having things like that is what makes, viewerships go up. And if viewership's going up, more people are watching. It'll make it a more fun time to watch the game.
But that's the problem, Scoops, of what they've had, though. Like, they've tried to up home runs, but upping home runs will also mean upping strikeouts as well. Like, that's going to be boring for the game. Walks, it'll up that. And fish, that's what you're referring to with the batting average balls in play.
It's all about opening up the game. And that's what I think baseball is trying to do. But, making the bases pizza boxes and be able, I mean, you're getting, who's leading right now in steals in baseball right now? What does he got? Like 25 stolen bases, 30 stolen bases?
It's Ellie Dela Cruz.
How many stolen bases does he have?
I want to say 34 right now.
34.
He's got a ridiculous amount.
I mean, he's on pace to have 90 stolen bases, 100 stolen bases. I mean, last year Acuna had 70. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, and that's because of the way they set it up. And yes, it's going to build offense. Yes, it's going to make the game fun, but it's also not fair to the pitchers. It's also not fair to certain aspects of the game and the growth of the game. I mean, the game's been around for over 100 years. Why are you trying to spin the wheel and make the deal now? I don't like the way baseball is doing it. And again, baseball has always tried to find something that's going to be more drawing to the other sports. Football, if you remember in the 90s before the strike, baseball was bigger than football. I don't know if you guys remember that, but before the strike in 94, 95, when the strike was going, it was going to break, baseball was at its high point. It was doing very well. And then after everything started to break with the strike, football started to pick up and things started to change with football. And then you got I have all these new athletes. You have Peyton Manning come into the league and all that other stuff. So it changed and football became a growing entity. And then all of a sudden with the endorsements that they were driving and all the different deals that they were bringing in, it was completely different then. And now football is just taking really over in the United States. It's not as big as it is over there, in Europe with soccer or European football, but it's a completely different entity. And by the way, there is more money being brought in in the NFL. It's the biggest organization. It's the biggest profit organization besides Amazon over the last 3 years. If you look at the numbers, look it up. As far as the contention of billions of dollars that it's bringing in that kind of money that Amazon has brought in over the years. So it's ridiculous, and it's only getting bigger. I mean, look, the deals, if you look at what the Super Bowl, what it was bringing in, the commercial deals that was bringing in, each commercial, 30-second commercial, the NFL was making between $7 and $8 million. 30-second commercial, $7 or $8 million. That's ridiculous. So if you sell, I don't know how many commercials you go to in the Super Bowl, but they go to enough and they have that halftime show so that the commercials are forever. Just think about how many times that commercial plays. $7-8 million they're making. I don't know how much they brought in for just the commercials. It had to be over, $200-300 million just for the Super Bowl. It's ridiculous. So
Keith says baseball will never come back to where it used to be. Football and basketball will always be more popular in the U.S. It'll never be more popular like it was as a kid. And I also think that goes back to what Scoops was saying too. Like, they're trying to contradict themselves too much. And I think sometimes with these metrics, it helps players elevate their game as a young player. Right? Baseball is becoming a younger team sport. Like, you're seeing all these fun young teams, the Orioles, the Diamondbacks, the Texas Rangers had a lot of young players. They veteran pitchers, but a lot of younger youth guys in that outfield. Like, it's turning into that kind of game now. And I think they have to evolve to those kinds of things with some rules, but I agree with you, Errol. They're also too extreme with others, like the stolen bases, like the runner on second base at extra innings. Like, there's no need for that kind of thing all the time. And I think that kind of thing has to evolve, and the umpires are going to have to evolve too. And that's why I think you're seeing a ripple effect, not just with Angel Hernandez, but some other ones that are going to be retired too. It's maybe forced out too, because Angel Hernandez is also a part of a lawsuit against MLB as well. So you wonder how much they're going to like a lot of these older guys.
It's definitely something that baseball needs to figure out, and they have to find the right guy that's going to take over after, obviously, Rob Manfred. And Rob Manfred probably has something lined up, or something, some guy lined up, but you got to be voted in because the owners have to agree to it. So Rob Manfred could actually pitch somebody like Bud Selig, and Bud Selig had everybody's ear. He had all the owners' ear. I don't know if Rob Manfred has all the owners' ears, because what I've heard is there's quite a few owners that can't stand the guy.
Right.
And he's made a lot of mistakes, and I still wonder what is the holdup of putting Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame. I don't know what the holdup is. What are you going to wait until the guy's dead to make a point, to prove a point? And then all of a sudden the guy's going to go into the Hall of Fame? It doesn't make sense. And again, why is Ohtani still playing if you're going to tell me that he knew nothing about betting on, I don't know, betting on sports? If you know his friend, who it was his best friend on the Angels, was betting and was being investigated, is being investigated by the FBI right now because they have some proof that he was involved with it. You're going to tell me that Ohtani knew nothing about it? Come on, guys. It's the most ridiculous thing. Baseball needs to wake up. The FBI needs to stop taking the money and taking the keys to the Mercury, because that's what it is. I mean, actually, it's not a Mercury. It's like it's a Lamborghini or whatever.
Whatever the Japanese equivalent of that.
Well, I did say smothering, but anyways, great show, by the way. And what did Pete say about Pete Rose?
Oh, that's some vulgar language about what he thinks of him as a person, I guess.
Listen, he could be whatever you think he is, Keith. Okay? He's a Hall of Famer. Has nothing to do. This guy's the greatest hitter. I wouldn't say greatest. One of the top 3 greatest hitters of all time. And you're going to tell me he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, he is what he is, but it is what it is. I mean, he's not the only. We were just talking about Draymond Green. You're telling me Draymond Green is a nicer person? I mean, come on. Draymond Green's an ass. So Pete Rose he's just one of many. Jose Canseco. I didn't want to meet Jose Canseco. Nathan reached out to me and said, "You want to meet Jose Canseco and interview him?" No, I don't want to meet him. He ruined the game of baseball. He hurt the game of baseball and the growth of the game of baseball because of his big mouth. No, I don't want to meet the guy. I probably have him sign a book and tell him, after he signs it, I hit him on the back of the head with it. The guy's an idiot. So just my opinion. Anyways, thank you to obviously Alex Acker for joining us, a former Piston and Clippers shooting guard. I want to tell everybody, I've been dealing with this. I've been being so absorbed from this pollen. And it's been horrible. I have bad allergies. I don't know how I got through this show. I've been breathing out of my mouth and talking out of my mouth. I can't even breathe out of my nose. So it's crazy what's going on with the pollen. But a shout out to all the fans. Again, thank you to Chris Lombardi from All 22 Premium Fantasy Football Analyst. He's a fantastic. And check out their new app that's coming out very, very soon. We're going to be doing something with them in the near future. So thank you to Fish for being our executive producer and doing what you do best. And Scoops giving us our Sports Minute and
Don't share a Wu-Tang pie with the Rock.
There you go. Wu-Tang pie with the Rock, ladies and gentlemen. Do you smell? La, 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 la. Speedy, do you know the rest of that line right there? What the speedster is cooking, right? What are you cooking?
Disturbing behavior.
There you go. Disturbing behavior.
I would hope I'm not cooking that.
Wu-Tang pie?
Disturbing behavior.
How about Wu-Tang pie? Would you cook it?
Cooking that either.
No?
Enjoy.
Thank you. Good job, Scoops.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, listen to us on Thursday. We will be back. Who do we have? We're waiting for somebody.
We have one confirmed one. Jason D'Arienzo is a former scout, NFL Devy Watch is now what he works for. He's been on our show before. He'll be on at 8:00. So he's a fantasy / draft guy. He'll be back on with us.
All right, there you go. And Lafreniere scores again. So Fish is like jumping for joy as he's probably jumping out of his pants as we speak. He looks like Freddie Mercury. Look at him. That is Freddie Mercury Jr., ladies and gentlemen. Could you sing like Freddie? That's the question.
Not even close. No, not close. Pretty bad. Speedy might be able to, though.
No. Speedy would have the sheep jump out of their fur. Okay.
99% of the world would too.
Thank you. Accurate.
Speedy, could you do like a good like We Will Rock You?
No.
Oh
no,
man.
that's the most unique voice in rock history.
Well, look, but just do me this. If the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, I need a "We Are the Champions" from you.
I'll try.
If the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, Speedy's got to eat
No,
Horse
I don't.
crap.
I'm not a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Horse crap. Right, Speedy?
I'm not a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
I will go. I'll tell you what.
No.
Here's the bet.
No.
Here's the bet.
No.
I'm gonna
You
make
bet
a
the beef.
I know. I'm gonna bet you.
You're betting the beef.
If the Rangers win this series and they play Dallas, I have Dallas. You have the Rangers. If the Rangers win, I have to wear a Ranger jersey to the parade in just my underwear. In just my underwear. The Rangers jersey in my underwear. No pants, just my boxers and shoes, obviously, because I can't walk barefooted. But I would have to wear a Ranger jersey with my boxers and my shoes. What do you think? And if the Rangers lose, you got to eat horse crap.
Ew.
I mean,
disgusting.
You just taste it.
That's disgusting.
But that's the deal.
That's disgusting.
Why? Why can't you do
It's
that?
nasty. I'm not doing that.
What would you do? I'll tell you what. I got a better one. You would have to wear a wig, a dress, lipstick, high heels, and you got to go to the Ranger game. I mean, you got to go to the Rangers. You got to go. No, there's no parade. You got to come on the show, and you got to go to the supermarket with me and go shopping with me like that. What do you think?
Can I come too? I can record.
Yes. Yes. What do you think, Speedy? Is that a deal?
That sounds.
That's fair. News 12 breaking news. Moron forgets pants at Rangers parade. No, but that's the deal. I wear a Rangers jersey in boxers, and I have to wear my sneakers. I go to the Ranger parade like that. But if the Rangers lose and the Rangers got to go to the Stanley Cup, and whoever goes to the Stanley Cup in the Western Conference, I'll take that team. And if they win, you have to wear a dress, lipstick. You got to shave your beard. Got to be completely shaved. Wear a wig. Wear a nice dress, high heels, and you got to go shopping with me at the supermarket. Come on, make the bet. Make the bet.
Part of me wants to, part of me doesn't.
Just make the damn bet. The Rangers are still not even there. You don't even know if it's even going to happen.
I don't know. A lot of worries me with that.
Can we just make the damn bet? Yeah, let's pound it. Let's pound it here. Just do it. I'm going to have to go at a parade in my boxers in a Ranger jersey. I can't stand the Rangers. I got to wear that blue, red, and white. Okay? I got to wear it in my boxer shorts. I'm going to be balls deep, baby. Balls deep. Are we doing it? Let's do it. All right. There we go. There we go. We got a bet, ladies and gentlemen. We got a bet. All right. Oh, man. I remember when you wore muumuus and, that was great. You look good. You look like the guy. You look like a girl from The Ring, the killer from The Ring coming through the TV. That's what you look like. I mean, you look pretty scary. You got to shave that beard. I mean, we can't make you. You look like the bearded lady if you actually had a beard. I want you to look somewhat like a girl. Okay. I want them to think that you're my little sister. Okay. Look at Fish's face. Oh man, it'll be funny. So that's the bet, ladies and gentlemen. If the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, I gotta wear a Rangers jersey, and I gotta wear it to the parade in boxer briefs and my sneakers. The whole time we gotta walk around practically naked. And if I win, and whoever comes out from the Western Conference, Edmonton or Dallas, and they win a Stanley Cup, Speedy has to go to the supermarket in makeup, a wig. He's got to shave. He's got to wear a muumuu or dress and high heels. This is going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen. Look at Fish. Fish, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. So he's obviously confident about his Rangers. I'm not. He's not.
I'm not confident at all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back on Thursday. Remember, go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Check out all our shows throughout the week, including our show, The Loudmouth, airing every Tuesdays and Thursdays here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, on YouTube, all the different platforms. Check us out. And by the way, just so everybody knows, in 2 weeks' time, the only way you can watch the Sports Loudmouth is on YouTube. And we're going to set up a common area where you can interact just like you do on YouTube, just like you do on Twitter. The only way you're going to be able to watch this show on live air is on YouTube. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. That's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back on Thursday. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.